All right. So basically, welcome to the first community meeting of 2020. It's been a long time fucking coming because, man, we really haven't had one in a while. And in a bit, I'm probably going to follow it up with a survey after a week or two. However, what we're going to do first is we're going to go over a number of the questions that have been posted to the forums because, surprise, those people came in early and they wanted their questions asked. Ket's already posted his response to a number of them. And in general, I'll say the best I can. I'm new to Headman again. I've come back after a really long, basically, hiatus, and ended up coming back just to, more or less, try to do what I could to basically do a bunch of community nonsense. So I might be a bit rusty on what general consensus is for the staff team. I might be a bit rusty on what the other heads think, but I'll do my best to give a general opinion and trying to actually make some things, interesting. And then after that, I'm going to be looking at community meeting for various questions. And in community questions, then Terry or somebody else can probably post some other ones that they get from people who are either PM directly to them or otherwise. So if you do have serious questions, feel free to PM me, or non-serious questions. I might answer them. So I'll be fine with that.
I was about to say, please don't tell people to PM me. That's horrible.
Okay, PM me instead. I'll accept. I will accept this burden.
Oh, you're so nice.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. I will be quiet for today. Grumpy. There.
There we go. And I've unmuted. Yes, he has. All right, so the first one we have is the karma point system going to see a change? I know many players have a lot of banked points, but no ways of spending it. I would like to see something like 1,000 points for an Antag token or more races, and honestly, it just feels like it's slowly becoming extinct to veteran players. I kind of get that because I've been here for like 6 years, and I have never really found another thing to spend karma on after unlocking everything. Really, there needs to be some kind of karma job, but the only issue with adding new jobs, really, is, Tolkien, sorry. Somebody just called that out. Oh, well. But the only issue with making new jobs willy-nilly is just a matter of where am I going to fit that into basically a distinct role that's interesting enough to put into the game that meshes with everything well enough that, if someone had a gateway explorer role, for an example, then say if that was for karma or something, how would that interact with the station? What would they be able to do? And for example, if they got changeling or vampire or trader or something like that, how different would that be? Would that actually be engaging to play with? Would it be balanced with more or less everything else on the station? And would people enjoy playing it? In my opinion, something like Gateway Explorer would be cool if we had better gateways, if we had bigger ones, if we had a whole bunch of stuff that, in general, made that kind of role engaging more than, hey, this is mostly empty, except for this one or two, these one or two little things out in the middle of nowhere. Mechanic is also lame. I'm going to say that only because there's nothing in space right now. There's a few things. There's the white ship that everyone who ever goes out there gets. And then there's the 5 different spacesuits they could grab. But more or less what it ends up being is this is an assistant with a tool belt with not even engineering access who just hangs out. And that's more or less what they do. All right, the Syndicate Depot is the only thing that I will mention that's actually kind of cool about that. That and the derelict rework. But I am going to say the randomly spawned space ruins are just too small to really warrant visiting. Like, there's not really a reason to run out there and do anything. So, honestly, if we could have a space map rework, I'd love that. If we could actually make Space Z levels something people want to visit and give people a reason for it. I always loved, I think it's actually Goon-style space, I think the wormhole bit for spacepods, where people actually end up going in and there's like a bar that's staffed by NPCs and there's a bunch of other stuff. And I figured, we've got a huge population. Why don't we have some space roles that are a little bit more useful for people who are, ghosts to actually take over, similar to the things that we've got from Lavaland. Because, man, having more ghost roles would really, really be a lot of I think it would be a lot of fun, at least. There's a number of things with ghost roles, like a space bar or something I ended up mentioning. But for the other part of the question, something like an antag token, I'm like, hell no. If you want to turn karma into kind of a grind that people would do just to get antag tokens, that's kind of the way you'd go about it. I'd be like, yeah, I don't think that would really be helpful for something that's trying to more just reward people for doing role play, so random people can be like, yeah, I think that guy was memorable. Here, toss him anything for what he did, and should hopefully be useful. Also, who is Elysian Prince?
Elysian Prince is Elysian Prince.
He's a nerd. He does events, and he does really good ones. Also, what is it?
It's
Karma needs to have I don't think making karma scale exponentially with the amount of karma you've spent would be good. That sounds like a pain in the ass. But, well.
I think, and to pretend a little bit to be Kiet here, that we need to be very careful when it comes to those space roles and karma-related stuff in general, that we keep the balance of the game in mind. Because if something was taught to me being an admin, is that people always find ways to take something and make the worst out of it, literally. Like, find a toolbox, kill a person with it. Find something and try to be destructive with it. So finding like the balance between cool shit and it being allowed to either be behind a karma gate lock or behind space ghost roll lock, it's one needs to find the right balance.
Well, not only that, but also if you're doing karma rolls, a lot of the time the point of the karma system should be it further allows people to do yet more roleplay. Have an interesting roleplay-oriented job or role locked behind karma specifically for that as a reward, more or less, for role-playing. Consider something like Nanotrace Representative or Magistrate. That's really a heavier roleplay role that takes a little bit more finagling to work with. And the entire point of it is basically, hey, you have this job that takes a lot more trust in whoever's playing it to do things in a way that seems more sensible. So locking them behind karma like that tends to make it a little bit more, I suppose, high quality when people get into it. It's just like,
I have one little idea. What excess karma could do, and that would be little things. Let's imagine that you're praying, and the size of your pray text might be a little bit influenced by the amount of karma you have. Like, those small things.
Are you asking me to think about implementing a system that allows people to measure the size of their karma by praying?
It would be admin only. Okay, so
no.
I mean, if someone prays, we get the tag that says xray.
Look, guys, that's how big my dick is.
Oh,
basically.
For fuck's sake, can we not?
No, that's basically what it is, though.
But I meant like in a helpful way, not in a hey, I'm praying, admin, can you tell me how big my karma text is? Like, let's just in a helpful way, because
no, I get what you meant, but admittedly I do like the idea. Some people are throwing around, hey, what about a round start PAI, some of the loadout options that you could do that could be kind of cool to put behind a karma roll. Maybe some stuff from the Autodrobe if you wanted to spawn that in rather than, the very generic outfits you've got otherwise. No cat ears karma only. Oh God.
To take a look what Fox McCloud, one of our maintainers, said about it, is utilizing excess karma for non-mechanical things is ideal for something like excess karma, something like expanded availability of aesthetics, or something that allows you to spawn with unique uniforms. Antec tokens is straight out. That will not happen. Additional jobs. Most of the existing karma jobs were from a different era and were not very well designed. I'm not inherently opposed to a karma job, but I need it to be something exceptional, well designed. And that there is in wait, what? And that therein is the hitch. Something that well designed is better off being available to all rather than being locked to a selected few, especially since the entire karma system was designed to reward roleplay and not give players mechanical advantages.
Yeah. Honestly, I ended up mentioning that when somebody brought up antag tokens in head chat, actually, specifically antag tokens for karma. And I was like, I went over intrinsic and extrinsic reward systems. And I'm not going to bore everyone with a lecture in here, but basically, extrinsic typically ends up with people getting rewards specifically for basically grind mechanics. They more or less don't really give a shit about the actual activity they're doing. They just grind through it. Meanwhile, intrinsic reward is you're going to do a lot of roleplay, but the reason that you do that roleplay is just because you like it, and the karma is extra bonus. That's really, really the point of the karma system, should be furthering that intrinsic reward of, hey, you like doing roleplay, so why not actually give you some more for it if you're actually invested in that kind of thing. So, karma skill system, oh God, no. I would like to see a skill system, though, no lie.
But by the way, Dum, we have someone who just joined and is probably a little bit tired. So, everyone, can we show Kiet the new emote?
Oh, yes.
Can everyone? Let's show Kiet the new emote so he can wake up and be very angry with me.
Hey, Kiet, how you doing? We've got a new emote there.
Hi, Kiet. It's literally Twitch chat.
It is. What's your opinion of?
I feel tempted to go right back to bed.
I hate.
I want to say the following, Kiet. You're free to remove it after the community meeting if you really don't like it. The person who made it is very well aware.
How did that even get there?
I added it.
You know, I talked to people. I said let's surprise Kiet, and I may use the social engineering to elevate my permissions on this Discord server.
Yeah, by asking me, hey, Dum, I'm going to mess with Kiet, just add a goat emote for me. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Oh, well. I apologize for furthering the goat cult's goals. Oh, well. Still,
anyway, first question.
That was basically it. I think that's all I could really say on it, other than I guess I had an idea for an interesting karma roll, but I can leave that for afterwards. You can leave that for after all the questions on the forum, that there's a lot of them.
Oh, yes. By the way, you can still post them in the forums, or reach out to Dum, Kiet, or me, or just say it in text chat and spam one of us so we can see that.
Yeah, if you fling me a DM, then I'll probably be able to read it off after everything on the forums is done. So, there.
Let's see what Kiet answered about the first question. Kiet said the following. Karma. I would like to see jobs like mechanic and security pod pilot be playtime locked instead of karma locked. There's no reason to karma lock them when we have a shortage of playable jobs. I would also like to use game mechanics, not karma locks, to ensure races feel and play different from each other. Currently, I feel we rely too much on karma locking races to give them a unique flavor. I have proposed the idea of allowing large amount of karma to be exchanged for consumable items like Entex tokens, but the idea was not popular. Well, actually, First of all,
No.
actually, Cat can say that themselves. I forgot he's here. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I just covered the discussion I had with Dom about intrinsic and extrinsic reward systems. And Dom does understand that to a fairly high level and has some good points. I still feel like we rely on the karma system too much. I don't. I sympathize with the view that there should be more things to spend karma on, but I don't think that, certainly not job unlocks, is a good thing to karma lock. So that needs to have a lot more discussion before we can figure out a way forward on that. So we can move on.
All right. Second question is, all right, what major changes do we have planned for this year? Any projects? Will admin and mentor applications be opening up soon? And also, to whoever reads this at the meeting, please say the word, oh my good God, I can't read that. I can't read that out loud. That's way too long. All right.
You will read it.
No, I can't do that. I'm sorry, man. It's just a bunch of face roll, and I love it.
You're not my friend anymore.
Right. What made... yeah, we need Kiet to read it after he just woke up.
Actually, that will redeem you.
If Terry wants to try it, he can.
I'm sorry, I don't speak Elvish. That is clearly
no.
Elvish.
All right. Major changes for this year. I'm thinking primarily for me, my biggest thing is going to be opening up community surveys again and possibly changing some things with voting on Discord. It might be there. It might be. This is going to be a lot of mights because I need to talk with staff. I need to figure out how we're going to do it if we do it. And that's the biggest thing for me, at least, is a lot of the time people don't use the forums for a lot of the discussion threads, and getting things to where more people are is kind of going to be my goal moving forwards. As for admin and mentor apps, I don't think we've had one in a while, and I'd probably be open to talking with the other heads about opening those up right now. Anyone else?
My goals are written on the thing, but basically, backend server for better tools, tackling the backlog of issues and PRs on GitHub. I'm willing to open admin/mentor apps whenever other heads or CMs want. I've got my list of changes wanted that I want more broadly for the server, which I just updated yesterday, actually, to add some new things and cross off some things that I've taken. I'll point out that Fox posted in the chat that his major goal is getting the supermatter in and map switching. And I think that covers it all.
Yep.
Do you mind if Ark actually mentions his map rotation right now? Map rotation idea on the server as a
Sure, go for it.
Go ahead, man.
Basically, TLDR, hopefully by the end of this year, map rotation should be in. Box will still probably remain the most played map, but they will allow easy switching in code of the maps with no external tooling. There will just be a verb for hosts to use to set it to be meta or delta next round.
As somebody who's had to play on the exact same station for 6 years in a row, this excites me a lot. I like new things, so...
That's pretty much it.
I like the current map, and at the same time, man, there's got to be something. Yeah, it's been 6 years, Fox. You've been here longer as well, but still, I know you've been here longer, nerd. Still, anyone else got year-long projects or anything to say on admin mentor apps? Actually, Terry, you could mention something on if you're up for mentor apps being open.
Yes. So technically, we have a lot of mentors, but I honestly follow the opinion that we can never have enough mentors. There are I think they're one of the most important people we have in this community. Are players who take their time and explain it to new players, guide them into the community, and make sure that everyone feels loved and welcome. So first of all, big thanks to our mentors. And second, yeah, we can open it. Personally, as a community admin, I only have one project, which is I will introduce a few more clown items. But don't get your hopes up. They're not for trolling. They're serious clown items that make the job better. I mean it. They will make the job better.
I'm up for adding meme items to the clown. Don't worry. I'm re-adding that emoji mask.
I mean, feel free to do that, but I actually talked with Kiet about it. Those are actually serious items that even the worst clown, if the worst clown possible uses these items, he will do something good for the population of the server.
So, if I can mention, there are, back on the subject of admins and mentors and shit, there are like a few peak hours where we're sorely lacking in admins and mentors who can be online on the server. And even with a lot of people being indoors right now, I'm honestly surprised that there's so little. So I'm hoping when I ask that question that we can find some people that can fill in those hours. Oops, sorry. Now I just lost my train of thought. But yeah,
Nice.
It's about noon for me when I notice it. So about 3 hours ago.
So I will mention that. I will cut in here and mention that one of my projects, which I've been wanting to do for a while, but I've never actually got to, is the idea of tracking how many admins and mentors and whatnot are online every 5 minutes and logging the result to a database, with the goal of then being able to do a database query and say, okay, these are the times of day we typically tend to have admins and mentors online on average. What are the times of day when we just typically never have any on? And can we look for people who are active at those times who might make good admin/mentors and then just invite them to apply even when apps are normally closed, with the idea of trying to fill out our coverage and make sure that we always have at least one admin and at least one mentor online. Not like guaranteed 100%, but trying to target our admin and mentor apps a little bit to ensure that we have better chance of coverage. That's sort of a longer term goal, but it's something that I have thought about and would like to do eventually.
And anything else? Are we moving on?
I'm good.
All right. I'll take Spark's word for it that everyone's set. Right. The next question is, when will we move to SS14? Please give Heads and Main's opinion on SS14 in general and moving Para to it. In addition, there's a lot of issues with sprite work on Para. Are there any plans to organize it? Right now, the quality of sprites getting accepted is not the best, and style people work on is very chaotic and disorganized. Any plans on getting sprite lead and actual official Paradise spriters? On SS14, I'm pretty sure that's the Unity SS13 project that's going on, and I'll say that I've watched Hippie's videos on it, and I'm very entertained, but I have no idea about the technical feasibility. It's not... Hold on. Wait, SS14 and Unity Station are not the same thing. Ark, you can go ahead.
It was my fault for making him think that.
SS14 is one that PJB, the VG Station coder, is working on to remake the whole of SS13 in C#. It's got some progress on it, and I think CM are moving their base to it. I'm not so sure.
If they are.
If it's possible, then hell yeah, I'd be in total support of that. It's more just a matter of my support doesn't mean very much, considering I'm not technically inclined.
I have like a few main issues with it though. Specifically, all of our current developers would have to start learning C#. Our maintainers would have to start learning C#, or we'd need new ones, which is a pretty dickhead thing to do, to just fire the current mates for new ones. And it's still very beta and unstable, so...
I'm just going to point out that I actually have explored this idea, and yeah, all of those objections and more came up. I don't want to have to ask everyone who wants to contribute to the game to learn an entirely new language. There have been loads and loads of SS13 remakes in the past that failed. Some of them that were further along than this, and they still failed. So it's a bit of it's a big challenge. There are lots of issues with it. I'd be okay with it if I thought it was practical, but the practical obstacles are extreme. So I would say don't get your hopes up. I would also say that the story about CM moving to it, having seen the what CM posted about it when they did the test and whatnot, I'll just say I'll believe that they're moving to it when they actually move to it and not before.
So, as the voice of Fox, Fox has to say the following. The current goals are moving towards Space Station 14, never at the current stage. However, in the future, that is a possibility. It's open. So, if they improve, and if it's got to be a real project where he follows like Justin Bieber, never say never, but
I will kill you.
currently, absolutely
Say that reference again.
You're fucking dead.
Also, I am definitely in support of this person who mentioned move para to modded Minecraft. I'd be up for that. Just watch as your RAM and fucking CPU explode.
So I'll also take the question about the spritework stuff. So basically, it is semi-organized. We do have a spriting channel. We do try to encourage people who are willing to make sprites to pick something from the approved list of sprites that need to be made. But it really is sort of up to the mates if they want to start pushing for a specific style of sprites, like a certain perspective or whatnot. I am somewhat neutral on this question. I just want the sprites to be consistent enough that they're not jarringly kind of mishmashy. Some would say that they're already jarringly mishmashy, to which I would say they could always be worse. I just want the standards to get progressively better rather than worse. That's all I really care about. If the mates want to push for a certain spriting style, that's cool. If they don't, that's fine too.
And admittedly, as someone who does a bit of spriting, I did the alternate IPC heads for everything except for the shell guard ones and anything newer than that. Basically, I just did the monitor heads and the weird alt heads. So I'm to thank for the Bishop toilet head robots and the helmet one for, I think, Hephaestus? I forget. The green one. But basically, it's very difficult to find even quality in things because it is an art form. It's a lot of different people with different artistic talents in there. Not everyone is going to be Traveling Merchant, where the dude literally made a full-on Starbound mod that has so much incredible sprite work that I'm not even going to mention half of it. The guy got commissioned for making a pod for somebody on another station, and it's possibly one of the best sprites I've ever seen for SS13. But
is it our Traveling Merchant?
Yes.
Oh wow!
It's Traveling Merchant. He made a Starbound mod. He worked on several other servers for their spriting. His work is absolutely impeccable. Yes. Can I post the pod? I'll have to figure out where it was because it's been a few years. But if you look up his if you look up the Starbound Shell Guard mod, he did all of the sprite work for that. That is his mod. Yes. That's his fucking work. I can't hold everyone to that standard. If I could, then I absolutely would, but holy hell, that guy is too good.
I have something that
Hang on.
Fox
I'm gonna jump in with this one thing. So if memory serves, the Prince of Terror sprite, that giant black spider that scares the crud out of everybody, that's Traveling Merchant's work.
Mhm.
Just one example.
Nice. So Fox says the following. It's likely we will be moving towards Space Station, TG Station, and Goon Station in terms of overall sprite appearances. Pretty much everyone has decided to standardize on this particular look at the moment. It would be ideal to likely standardize on that as well.
Hang on. All right.
I'm kind of tempted to take Danny Alburn's questions. Albarn? Albarn? Albarn.
We should probably, if it's related, then sure.
Oh wait, no, sorry. That I'm.
Yeah, no,
skipping
we've
ahead
got like a
dramatically.
lot more
Sorry.
forum ones. No, it's
Yeah.
cool.
No, this is a forum one. I just scrolled down. I forgot I scrolled down.
All right.
me.
Yeah, the next one is Quint.
Yes.
All right. Will there ever be something like the lore team again to fix all the issues that resulted out of the removal of space-proofness as a species trait and to flesh out the lore in general? If no, how would one go about updating the lore? Were there thoughts about increasing the time required to play certain roles like security officers? I don't remember the exact time, but if it was something around 5 hours, that's barely enough time to learn the controls of the game. Why isn't the IAA a karma-locked role if it is a role that is very reliant on knowledge of SOP and space law, in addition to requiring heavy roleplay?
I'd like to take these actually, considering I've looked into all three of these.
You can go first, man, if you like.
Yeah. So basically, lore team. There are no current plans to reintroduce a lore team. However, if you notice any information on the wiki that is just factually wrong, no matter what it is, just edit it yourself. Just change it yourself. You can change it. If it's specifically lore, which there is no real fact of the matter, it's just opinion, just constructed reality, basically, then just ask ahead about what you want to change. I'm fairly open to approving changes in lore. The main reason we ask you to say something about these is so that we don't end up with wildly inconsistent lore from 10 different people editing it, which is a potential issue. As to playtime requirements for job roles, I have been considering increasing the playtime requirements on certain roles. For example, Warden, which currently has very little in the way of extra requirements beyond Sec Officer. Maybe even the exact same requirements as Sec Officer, when arguably it shouldn't, as well as a few other ones. But I'm kind of skeptical about increasing the requirements for Sec Officer because I feel like we don't have enough Sec Officers right now. And I feel like increasing the requirements for Sec Officer is just going to lead to more shifts with no Sec Officers, which is terrible.
Isn't the current time on that like 10 hours?
No. I can very quickly check for you, but
all right, yeah.
Short
it is 10.
version probably not going to increase the requirements for Sec Officer, because I'd rather have some Sec Officers, even if they're new, than just no Sec Officer.
Somebody mentioned, does QM not actually have cargo tech time required?
No, it doesn't, and I'm considering adding it.
Yeah, you probably should.
Yeah, but that's a discussion that we, the heads, are going to have within the next week as to the playtime requirements for these various roles. Basically, I don't want to start using playtime as a way to try to guarantee competence in a certain role, because that's impossible. Instead, I only want playtime requirements to be set to the minimum value to ensure that somebody has a chance of doing a certain role decently. That's it. Sec Officer currently requires 10 hours as crew, which is, I feel, a fairly good place. Probably not going to increase that. Might increase the requirements for certain jobs like IAA or Warden in the security department, but probably not basic Sec Officer. There is no cap on security officers currently, or at least there shouldn't be. And if it's a problem that we have too few slots for them, we should increase that. IAA being a karma job, absolutely not. I am totally opposed to adding any new karma locks to any jobs, now existing jobs or future added jobs. I feel like the karma system, as I said before, is being overused to try to address problems that it shouldn't be addressing. So no, But the idea of adding like a 5 or 10 hour playtime as security requirement to IAA, yeah, I'm totally up for potentially doing that, just so that IAAs, we know that IAAs have read the wiki about space law and SOP before they play the role. But again, that is something I have to discuss with the other heads. That's just, what I'm willing to consider, not what, we've got an agreement on. I think that covers all of that.
Yeah, and I'll go into some of the things. Like lore team for me, if it turns out a lot of people actually really do want lore team back, and there's, for example, I could put it on the community survey I intend to put out within the next few coming weeks. But if there is enough of a desire for it, I don't see a reason why I couldn't have somebody run a lore team. Admittedly, I understand the issues with it from beforehand, but having a sort of group of nerds who really, really do want to write new things and basically create little stories of it, that's a lot cooler than having it just kind of sit around on the wiki and have people submit things. Because, of course, if it's one or two people occasionally coming to us as heads, then admittedly, yeah, we're head admins, but at the same time, we're not all really big into literature. We're not always going to be really big into lore. At least if it's not me, then who else is going to be in there doing the same thing? Or if it's not yet, who else is going to be in there? That kind of thing. So, yeah, headmans can read. But more or less, I'm thinking if there are people who really are invested in it and really do care about lore, then I'd say go for it. I really don't have an issue with giving people that kind of thing if there is that much of an issue. Oh, hang on.
Can I throw something in?
Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing that scares me about the lore team being reintroduced, however, is that if a change happens that might change the lore, that people might get upset. Because we have an ever-evolving game, and things have been changed in the past. For example, slimes now have...
Vent crawl, yeah.
Exactly, for example. So it needs to be a person that understands that the lore they might now have in their mind might not be the lore that will be there in a year, in 2 years, and that things need to always adapt. And not that they misunderstand that they have a right to say something about changes. Like, if this reminds me a little bit about this very controversial topic, for example, when they changed slimes, where people were not happy that slimes got changed and that Vencrawl was taken away because it was part of the lore. So it needs to be the right kind of people.
Yeah, okay. Basically the matter of, hey, you gotta understand that not everything is set in stone. It is a game, balance exists, and changing things around will happen. I think... what?
I've got to jump in
You can
here
if you want.
and say two things. One is, this is just a general request to the player base. Never, ever never say, I would like the gameplay changed in this way to comply with the lore, because the rule that the staff follows is gameplay comes first. Lore is written based on gameplay. Gameplay is not written based on lore, because if it was, we'd have a very unfun game. I'll say that again. Gameplay has to come first, and lore is written to comply with gameplay, never the other way around. And it has to be that way. Otherwise, people would make arguments based on the lore, and we'd end up writing gameplay to account for the lore, which would result in unfun gameplay. And the goal is a fun game, first and foremost. Also, on the subject of lore, you have to... I'm quite happy when I read comments. I can't remember who made this comment, but somebody made the comment in SS13 chat yesterday that they quite like the fact that our lore is not, binding, basically, because that means they can make up their own lore and it's just as canon as everything else. And I think that's a great attitude to take. Having a lore that isn't strictly enforced enables people to essentially make up their own lore, and so long as it's not, complete nonsense, they can just run with it, which I think is really nice.
Skyping would also like to mention that the lore has basically just done nothing but significantly improve over the course of the past 3 to 4 years, thanks to the efforts of people who have actually put in a lot of work to it. Apparently, he's very, very happy that has happened.
Yeah, bro, it's sick.
Good God, who has the surfer dude voice? Who just did that? It's amazing.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's my voice, bud.
Oh,
it's
That's
amazing.
Skyping, yeah.
Yeah,
hey guys. Fuck.
Yes.
What are you blaming me for?
Oh,
Shut up, Mike.
Hey, all right.
Ooh,
Still,
okay.
after that, thoughts on increasing playtime. I'm with Ket on that, where I don't think we should really be increasing playtime on Sec Officer specifically. We've already got a really, really low amount of those. I honestly think that the best thing we can really do is try to make Sec a little bit better to play, because right now, Sec is pain and suffering, as Ferry has said. You are probably the fun police, and it is treated as such by most of the players. So trying to take it away from that is probably make it a role that's not just for masochists would probably be a good idea. But that shouldn't have anything to do with playtime right now. As for the IAA Karma role, again, not really a big fan of making any existing jobs already. I'm not a fan of making existing jobs that are currently available restricted behind Karma, because that's kind of, it's not really a fun thing. Also, Rogue did mention less harsh punishments for Sec officers would help, because it is a little bit scary to be learning. Because, of course, if you mess up, you could be messing up somebody else's round a little bit more than, say, somebody in engineering or science. It's very, very difficult. And Magistrate is Karma locked, somebody mentioned. The difference between Magistrate and IAA is that Magistrate has higher priority in legal matters than the Head of Security. The Head of Security can be overridden by a Magistrate, which is why there's that big Karma lock there. So really, you really shouldn't be like, we should open up Magistrate to all this stuff. Nothing happens, apparently. Nothing really happens that much, because most of the time the Magistrate tends to either agree with people, or he'll say something and then the Head of Security says, fuck you, I have a laser rifle. That would be... that's usually the issue where CC comes in and faxes happen and all kinds of stuff gets messy. But there's a very good reason why Magistrate has a Karma lock on it. Other than that, though, I'm considering, for future roles, I was going to say there are some things that I would like to see. Hell, Ambassadors was a thing that happened a while ago and was never, ever implemented. We had the rooms. Nothing happened at all. No, never at all. Good God. I was, of course, thinking of something completely different. Wait, hold up. Not correct? Really? I know it was a Karma roll that we could buy, but got refunded. Oh, my bad. It always got hacked by malf. Yeah, that's actually true. We had Ambassadors, but the thing is they never actually got added as proper jobs. You could buy them. They weren't actually implemented. That's the thing, is they were only racial ambassadors that had nothing to do, nothing whatsoever, and really it was just kind of disappointing. In my opinion, adding something like ambassadors would be, hey, let's say you have a specific character for it, like a, kind of like your clown or mime name there. You would have a particular character in there. I think a player actually suggested this to me when I brought it up. And it was more or less have a job slot specifically for that, where you create a different character. And every round, then you would randomize which corp you were part of or which race you represented. And you would be given a set of more roleplay-oriented objectives. Basically, think about Vox Trader, which was boring as a full game mode, but make it into a job. Make it a corporate espionage thing. Not exactly a full-on and tag, but something that's trying to actually get the interests of a particular corporation or race finished by the end of the round. That's something that I would like to see as a karma roll, something that's a little bit more roleplay oriented and something that's primarily based on giving people something to do that has a higher standard of play, really. That's what I would like to see if we do add more karma rolls, something along those lines.
So I have to jump in here and say that we're 48 minutes in and we've covered like the first page of questions when we have like 8 pages. And to avoid this meeting running like literally 4 hours, I feel like I'm obliged to just whip through like 3 or 4 questions posted on the thread in a row, and then just
we don't have 8 pages.
we do if you count all the questions that are already submitted, like additional ones.
Are you looking maybe at the wrong one? I have not even a second page on this one.
Well, my window might be smaller than yours.
Oh my!
That sounds like
Oh,
a
yeah,
It sounds like
Oh,
a
there's a
medical
2019
question. You gotta
wait,
see a
wait.
doc about that.
Wait.
those are 2019 questions. Never mind.
Yeah.
well done, kid.
I-
Were you
like,
reading the wrong questions?
yeah.
No,
Has
going
anyone
back
there's-
in time.
There's a section. Yeah, I was reading the wrong ones, but
For,
Oh, well.
guys, Kiet just
The
woke up,
clapping.
and he woke
Aw.
even up earlier than normal.
I won't blame him.
okay.
So
well,
Kiet didn't get a
gonna-
lot of sleep.
I'm still going to go through 2 or 3 of these and then pause.
Yeah, I'll read
because-
What, the
next-
outdated
The
question?
next 2 are
No,
very
not
short.
the outdated ones. We always do the foreign ones first to reward people who actually do what they're supposed to do and post their questions.
The
in
next
advance.
2 are very short, so I can go over these real quick. The next 2 are there plans to improve or replace space pods in the near future? Aren't exactly the best right now with clunky controls and no diagonal movement. And are we going to see more to the engineering remap that was testmerged earlier? If so, when? For me, space pods, right now, space, there's not a lot to explore. I've already mentioned I'd love to see more space runes and stuff like that. Pods are fucked right now because, admittedly, when they were reworked from their initial state, Tiger basically said, what the fuck is vehicle code? Fuck it, I'm going to make a thing. And it doesn't work very well, but it exists. Engineering remap, I'll let Kiet mention that. And whatever he wants to on the space pod.
Very briefly, I would like to see Fox's Supermaster PR be updated by Fox and then merge within 3 months. Basically, whenever Fox can do it, whenever he has the free time. After that, I hope to get Free's engineering remap to updated and then merged. We have to do the Supermatter PR first because, I mean, the Supermatter is the dominant thing in engineering, so we kind of have to do that first. Space pods, I have no comment on other than that's largely kind of mate territory. Whatever is more maintainable, I have no huge preference.
Okay, so as Fox wrote to me to speak as him, he says the engineering remap is all up in the air, but it is likely to happen as part of the map standardization. And Fox is currently writing a reply, which I think will be the reply to Kiet. So let's give him a few seconds.
All right.
Or moments. It's finished.
No,
Space
we're not
pods.
Jeopardy theming this. I already got the
So-
Katamari theme stuck in my head.
Fox says the following about space pods. Space pods. I would personally like to X. I hate them. They're horrendously coded. They encourage toxic metagaming for things like blobs, nuke ups, and other spaceborne hostilities. If they have to be kept in, it would be ideal to rewrite them to be a mech subtype.
So I'm just going to comment and say I am totally fine with axing space pods entirely. If we do that, we will have to update things like the mechanic and the SecPod pilot accordingly. But I'm willing to go that far and just axe them entirely in the name of maintainability. That is just my personal opinion, though.
I agree
From a
personally. Not as
gameplay
Fox.
perspective, no. Make mini space pods, somebody mentioned.
Please no.
I have a suggestion. We need to wait a moment while Fox is typing to me. So the suggestion is, how about we X the space pods and implement the clown car?
No.
Amazing. I enjoy.
Yes.
Implement clown car. Implement
By the way-
clown car.
Toodles, are you torturing me this entire meeting or just most of it?
There's
Oh,
so
no.
much support for it in the
I,
chat.
I
though.
have
Bring
another
back the
surprise for you,
clown
Kiet,
car.
later.
Oh,
But
God, why?
The people have
Um,
spoken.
People
So,
have spoken.
Fox-
Clown
Fox-
I
car
don't
is
know what
not-
else there is to say.
Guys,
Can I-
Station's
Guys,
clock are
Fox
big.
has spoken.
Fox says the following: he is fine with Kiet's proposed
I mean, he's fine with clown car.
regarding the space pods. So that
Right,
is
speed
Well,
merge.
it's
Let's get
not
rid of
my
him. Let's go.
proposal. It's Fox's proposal. I'm just saying I'm fine with us doing it.
yeah. He is also saying that's fine. So you're both fine, okay?
You're nerds.
I will
Right,
say
it'll be
one
merged
thing.
within the hour, guys. Don't worry.
Oh no! I completely misunderstood that. Fox literally said he is fine with the clown car.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm
That's
fine with it if we
unexpected.
had a mime car too.
He's a god.
I guess I will help. I know that one of our mentors, Doc, is working on porting the clown car. I guess I will now help him a little bit to get it ported.
Clown
If
car
reminders
hijack
won't even
into
be a
singular.
spread, it'll just be invisible.
Yes, make
The
invisible.
mime car's active
Mime-
cloaking.
Let's,
the
let's
mime
move,
car.
let's
I
move
just-
on to the next question
Yeah,
on the thing
right.
before we talk about clown cars anymore and I lose the will to live.
All
Um,
right. So, what happened to some of the old gateway locations, Hotel Wild West? Are there any plans of bringing them back in the future? 2, map rotation, feature plan for the future. How likely is it? Will it happen? The answer is yes, by the way. It actually was mentioned earlier by Affected Arc as a project that he wants to work on. Technically might just be host operated, but still, it's a thing. Who broke the poor and pitiful changelog, and when will we increase the maximum creatable characters on the server to 500 or even 1,000? I heard people like Spark are running out of slots again.
I could take these since I was sort of the driving force behind a lot of this stuff.
Alright.
So first, Hotel, basically it had horrific bugs. I don't mean like minor bugs. I mean like bugs that would cause half the Z level to fail to load and just be empty space. It was that bad. And I was sort of the driving force behind getting Hotel killed off. I do have fond memories of Hotel. I did some work on it myself, but the amount of bugs it had was just cripplingly severe, and we had nobody maintaining it and keeping it up to standard, or even just making sure it worked. So we had to get rid of it in the end. Also, it relied very heavily on code for a feature that was removed called SNPCs, with like basically carbon human mobs that were controlled by AI, and that just didn't work very well. Basically, it had a huge amount of tech issues, and at this point, in order to re-add it, we'd basically have to remake it from scratch because a lot of the things it used just don't work. Wild West, hang on, let me just finish this. Wild West worked, but it was horrific for balance reasons. Basically, it was only completable by the most robust people on the server or the people who were abusing the limitations of the AI. And it made those people dramatically more powerful than they already were by giving them Cindy red suits and assault rifles and all kinds of stuff.
Guaranteed hijack objective at the
Well,
end with a wish
that was-
granter.
That was taken out, but yeah, that was one of the worst things it had. Basically, it took the people who were the most robust and prone to shooting things and gave them even more robust stuff, even more weapons to shoot things with, and potentially hijack objective, and that just wrecked everything. So that will never come back in its current form. I think I speak for all the heads and the mates when I say that. That will never come back. A new away mission may be added if somebody codes it, hopefully, but Wild West was just too destabilizing.
Also, I missed an edit, by the way. Sorry to interrupt, but I missed an edit. They edited out the map rotation question and added, has there been any thought about adding additional optional titles to different jobs for new players? Example, security cadet or medical intern, which allows them to show they're not experienced yet.
Yes, there has been thought about that. I'm skeptical that it's a good idea because A, new players don't know how to change job titles. B, if you mark someone as a security cadet, you put a huge target on their back because they have all the same items and access, but you're marking them as less robust, which makes them an easy victim. And 3, if making them an alt title means that they have the same requirements in terms of playtime and everything else, so you're not making it any easier to get into the role. So for all of those reasons, I am skeptical about kind of intern job titles as alt titles. Yet Affected Arc also makes the point they're a shit show in the database, which they are. So for all of those reasons, I'm skeptical. I'm open to the idea of like junior entry positions to each department, but they would have to be different jobs, not just alt titles, in order for them to be meaningful. Map rotation, I will briefly touch on. I know Affected Arc wants to talk about this, so I'll touch on it briefly. Basically, I expect that sooner or later it will pass. Affected Arc has been working on it, Fox wants it, and so forth. I definitely want it to be in the code so we have the option. I have to say, I'm very skeptical about the idea of map rotation, like actually using it. There are loads of things I'm worried about with it. Poorly coded maps like Metastation, for example. Kind of stealthily importing features from TG without adequate balancing them for our code base, forcing people to learn new maps. Like there are loads of things I'm worried about with map rotation, but I do want the features to be there, and I do want us to have the discussion.
Okay, oh, sorry, go on, Kid. I have Fox answer.
There are two last things on this questions by Danny Auburn. I understand that Dumb and Affected are going to want to talk about this for a bit, but my last things are, yes, we're going to fix the changelog. Affected Arc has a PR up for that. I'm not going to name who broke it. I don't think people need more than 10 character slots. I certainly don't think they need more than 30. I'd rather have people have fewer characters that are more fleshed out than a jillion characters which have no definition and are only different in their name and species. But that's just my personal preference. I'm not going to demand that we reduce the number of character slots or anything stupid. I just think that PRs that request 100 character slots are just like, really, seriously, do you really plan to use 100 characters? The correct answer for that is no, by the way.
I would use it.
So
fucking bet I would find a use for it. I'm not shitting you.
Stop.
I'm gonna actually put in my piece on this because I looked at your response and I went, "Bitch, what?"
Stop.
Because I actually have around 19 full characters that I have fleshed out over the past since 2014.
My question to you is, why the fuck do you need 19 characters on a 2D spaceman game?
Fight!
Stop.
Different characters on a shitty spaceman game.
I think
Get ready to roll.
I'd even say 30. I'd even say 30 is reasonable if you have, fucking 6 years in this game. The thing that I think is crazy is people asking for the character slot to be raised from 30 to 100. I think that is just, come on, dude, retire some characters.
100 characters?
Serious talk. Okay. No, I would not actually use 100 characters.
Can I?
Thank you.
Can I throw in Fox serious answer now?
Terry, go ahead.
So Fox says a number of the gateway missions are highly flawed and incredibly old. We are talking 2011 to 2012. He would personally like to see a transition away from mechanically beneficial gateway missions and add more that are socially gathering spots, encouraging players to play on the station itself as opposed to going on an adventure. Is just better for everyone involved. Also, Hotel was just not viable anymore because we removed the SNPCs. And it's a shame because from an admin perspective, SNPCs were great. It's something I never talked about, but there were nights in Discord where Normie and me added one SNPC, named him like a normal player, and just released him on the station and watched him and see if people figure out that they're engaging with an NPC and not with a real player. I miss those days.
Didn't he get promoted to paramedic and then there's chief medical officer and nobody still knew that it was an NPC?
Yeah, and he breaks all the doors and it's hilarious.
Why is the CMO
Basically, you're all
headbutting
idiots.
an airlock?
I'll let you finish.
People want this back already.
If you want this back, then we need someone who is programming or who is returning the SNPCs in a way that is not destroying the master controller, because that was the reason why they have been removed. If you add an SNPC, there were a lot of mistakes and bad code that had a high chance of instantly crashing the master controller or crashing it in like 30 minutes. It was not nice.
I want to just touch on the map rotation, because I know it is possible, because who was the admin that was working on the engineering remap?
Was that free?
That
or-
was
It
definitely
was
free.
freestyler.
Yeah,
Mhm.
free. He actually made it where maintenance would actually get randomized every time.
Let's never bring
Did
up
he?
randomized maintenance again, because
No, I'm gonna say this. I love that system, but I'm also a civilian main, so that's why.
That well,
I would actually like a system like that.
I don't mean like randomize the whole station. He just limited it to maintenance, so it would randomize the loot spawns, where things were, and possibly even some of the rooms.
Yes,
Just
that's
so-
what I'm referring to.
Just so people can't go, oh, this is where this loot spawns, that loot spawns there. We always know where it is.
Loot is
Well,
random
some
anyway.
of that already randomizes. I mean, there's spots, but it
The loot-
randomizes what spawn.
The loot does, but not the the spawn spots.
The rooms would still be cool to randomize, but still.
Yeah, his grey tied combat gloves anymore.
No. Still, is that everything we've got? Admittedly, for me, I'm in support of adding more character slots just in general, because, yeah, character
No.
slots. Yes!
Bring back SNPCs. That's what we've learned
I
here.
will make the ultimate IPC named AA.
Okay,
Alright.
so I'm just going to mention one thing about SNPCs in case anyone thinks it's a good idea to re-add them. I once had the task of trying to use SNPCs to create some content, and I will tell you that they are essentially impossible to work with from a balance point of view, because you have to account for too many things. You have to account for players attacking them. You have to account for players injecting them with chems. You have to account for players depressurizing the area that they're in. You have to account for players stunning them. You have to account for players cuffing them. You have to account for players doing anything to them that they might do to another normal human character, which makes their AI either incredibly complicated, or it makes them extremely easy to exploit and cheese if you just find one thing that you can do to them which will basically neutralize them as a threat or a challenge without triggering their AI. And part of the reason that, for example, terror spiders and the other content that I add, like the syndicate NPCs in the depot, are not SNPCs, never have been and never will be, aside from the fact that SNPCs had bugs, was because essentially their AI handicaps them. Like, if you make them carbon human mobs, it becomes impossible to have any semblance of balance. So for that reason alone, don't be so quick to ask for things like SNPCs in the hotel gateway to be brought back, because if those things were included, they would result in horrifically unbalanced content.
With the old gateways, could we not use the AI system you've designed for like the Terror Spiders and Syndicate Gateway? Not Syndicate Gateway, what am I saying? Syndicate Depot. I'm an idiot.
The Syndicate Depot's AI and the Terror Spider AI is completely different and doesn't overlap really in any way, because all the AI systems that I make are custom designed for what they're intended to be used for. So I'm not going to go into it in detail because people would find it boring. But short version, any AI system has to be extremely carefully designed for exactly what it's going to be used for. You can't just make a generic AI system like SNPC, because it just doesn't work.
I mean, it went from civilian to CMO, so something's obviously happening here.
Yeah, that's not really a high bar to pass. I know you might seem like a high bar to pass.
Ouch.
But it isn't.
Sorry,
because-
player base.
Well, it's not. It's not
Medical
that.
is easy.
It's not that. It's more that like an NPC that's intended to actually be a challenge to players to deal with has to account for way more things than an NPC that just sits in medical and detects nearby damaged players and heals them like a medbot. See what I mean? Like, an NPC that's promoted to CMO doesn't have to interact with anyone to have that happen. It just needs a captain to not examine them. Whereas an NPC that has to interact with players in a more substantial way is harder. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. Let's move on.
Right. Next question is, and you'll actually be talking again for this. Are there plans to relook at I'll rephrase this because it's a little weirdly phrased. Are there plans to look at the race's pros and cons? Example of a Vox new pros and con list would be pro, their internal organs will not accumulate germs or decay even outside the body. External organs do not accumulate germs while attached. And this is nullified by a con, which they remain vulnerable to organ death when, say, revived with strange reagent, as just an example. And then on top of a short 2-minute defib time and SR immediately decaying a large portion of their organs, requiring extensive surgery to fix, often putting them in a worse position before they were SR'd, and in some cases rotting their heart instantly, causing a very quick death that is unfixable without either immediate heart surgery or of which are rarely on hand, resulting in said Vox being stuffed into cryo where they're kept alive and forgotten for long periods of time, requiring a complete SM body swap, which is also not common. I think we mentioned making races more mechanically interesting. Specifically just, yeah.
Let's let Affected Arc talk about changelogs before he explodes. And we.
Oh, God. I didn't realize I was restricting him.
In terms of changelog, it got broken between the host switchover. I won't name names, but I definitely know who broke it. But, yeah, it's been broken since almost a year now, since the host changeover happened. And even though it sometimes got updated, that was people manually updating it by running the script, then PRing the results, which is why it was in, like, timestamps of a separate month at a time. Like, it just jumped from July to October in the changelog, because the date was when you ran the script, not when the PR was merged. But hopefully when the new changelog system gets in, it'll all be solved.
Can I just touch on the strange reagent thing from a medical standpoint?
That's an example, yeah.
Well, I don't want to brag, but I'm like, one of the best medical players on the server. The select few, as we called. And I have to say that strange reagents being used to revive Vox players and people complain about, it says on the wiki they don't get organ damage, but they get organ damage if they get strange reagents. That's intended because if Vox, for an example, dies and they take no organ damage, they take like absolutely nothing to do internally, and they're just given SR, they're just given like 100% health, up they go with no. So why would Vox have to fear death? They wouldn't fear death. They would just kill themselves constantly over Gova and just say, oh, I'll just be given SR. It's a free ticket to 100%. Why do I have to fear getting killed? SR is intended to, it's a quick way of reviving someone if they're not revivable by standard or normal means, but you have to deal with the fallout, so they do have to spend time in medical as a game mechanic.
I have to say, I think that we focus too much on Vox. I think that we have a number of races like Kaidan, which are just completely unviable for play in general because of their crippling...
the rework.
Yeah, I mean, that's just one example. But we have other races that, like Nucleation, which are currently admin only, which we could rework into an interesting playable race if we just put in the effort. But we spend so much time arguing about the details of things like Vox that we completely neglect these other races. And I would like us to stop obsessing about Vox for a few months and actually work to get some of these other races up to standard and playable and interesting.
I feel Vox is one of the major spoken of because it's one of the different races that is actually played. I mean, recently
Right.
I've taken note, barely anybody plays Slime. I've seen like 3 Slime players. Nobody practically plays Kaiden. I've seen about 1. Barely
Right.
anybody's playing Plasma Man anymore.
Right, and the reason for that is because we spend so much time obsessing over Vox that we neglect these other races to the point that Vox gets all the attention and love, basically, from a development point of view. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because Vox getting all the work put into them means that Vox are more attractive to play relative to these other races that have been neglected. So I think we need to stop. Hang on, I'm going to change my mic.
Swatted over here.
Yes.
You're being arrested again.
Yeah.
By the
I
way,
also
we
think-
will.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, from a development point, we will add that Skrull need to lay eggs in the toilets every 15 minutes, otherwise they will go
Oh,
into hard
God.
crit. I think that'll be a positive change. Anyway,
Oh,
you were
God.
saying?
I just think
Spartan, you're fired.
Vox is the one mainly focused off is because Vox are the most vocal at the moment. You touch Vox one time, you have like 9 people message you going, "Why did you touch that?"
Hell has no wrath like a Vox player skull. Although I'll admit, I'm gonna say it used to be IPC that was that way, and admittedly, it was probably me and Spark that were the vocal ones.
Touch IPC, you get an angry message.
I
from
will
Sparks.
hit you.
Oh, at that point, I was probably still playing TR.
Yeah, you were still playing Kai. Nerf IPC, somebody says.
If we
I mean,
touch
we
IPC
can.
stall, we have to go in the bunker.
I will
Not
hit
that we
you.
can, we should.
No.
We can't
Make-
nerf IPCs. Like, what would you nerf? Like,
Make it
how could
so-
you make them weaker? Like, I don't
Make-
understand.
Make
Make
No,
them die
make-
on round start.
make it so if they get EMP'd, their brain is just deleted. Just
Yeah, we
that's
hard
about
delete them and
permanent.
they go into the
How-
void.
Yeah.
They just black
IPC
screen
is made
the
of
rest of the
Lego, so make it if you step on an IPC foot, you get stunned for 2 years.
Re-add the bug that made it so IPCs couldn't self-repair and make it so when they wear hard suits they overheat.
Oh, I was actually
that
going
was
to
great.
say something about
What?
overheating. Make it so that they have to put a piece of bread in their
Oh
head.
yes,
Otherwise, they overheat.
bread slot IPC.
Bread slot.
Shall we move
They'll
on to the
constantly
next
shoot
question?
up toast.
Yeah, I'll move
Yeah,
on
I
to the
see.
next one. All right, party pooper. All right. What is your opinion on the growth/decline change in the server's population? Are there any plans to try to draw in new players, or is the focus being placed on current players a little bit more? In my opinion, I'm really happy seeing the server grow as much as it has over the past few years. I remember being around when like 60 was high pop, and the people who were around are like, oh man, it's, so insane that, it's no longer 30 people. There's now 60. And then, of course, now we see stuff. It's like we average 120 plus on high pop rounds.
Usually
120, 130. So 150 is the highest I've seen, especially.
I've seen
Say-
200.
Okay.
Oh, good
Yeah,
God.
And yet we're still on
Guys?
box.
Guys, sorry, I just returned from the toilet, but Fox told me something to say as his voice. Slime used to be the ones that were super focused on because they were insanely strong. I heavily nerfed them way back in the days, but then used to see the same fixation for a long time until they were deliberately brought in line with other races of that time. Okay.
I think he's basically saying that players only play races if they're insanely strong.
No, that is objectively not true.
We have IPC.
Yeah, like I will just say I've looked at the player data for this, and the last time I saw that, I did not observe a big correlation between the strength of a race and how many people play it.
I mean, I would say Plasma Man. The moment they had their suits nerfed.
I would also say that there's so few people play Plasma Man that I can't make any statements about them because there's so few of them. There might as well be a rounding error in the data.
Oh,
I was going to say on the
Wow.
subject that there's always going to be players that seek the mechanical advantage, and there's just going to be players that are going to play what they like, what they find attractive about the race.
Yeah.
So it's just statistical blips at best, as what Kiet said.
To give you an example, a long time ago, there's this huge fuss made about how Volp was being nerfed by taking away their dark sight. And as of someone who plays Volp exclusively, and has always played Volp exclusively since they were added,
disgusting.
my reaction to that entire discussion was, Volps have dark sight? As in, I never even cared. Like, I literally, I'd run around with a flashlight just because I wanted to be able to see. Like, I cared so little about the mechanical advantages like claws and dark sight that Volp had that I ignored them to the point of not even realizing they were there most of the time.
That's why we should make a goat race with all the nerfs and only
No,
Kiet plays
please,
it.
no more goat memes. We've had enough.
Here's the thing. First of all, yes, Kiet plays a Volp. I'm not telling everyone what his character name is, but
Goat.
he is exclusively playing Volp. I have not seen him play anything else. This out of the way. Kiet, I have a question regarding unique races and races that would love to be played by people.
Don't fucking say it.
Okay.
When do we add cat girls?
We already have,
This is why.
we already have female Tajarans.
All
You
right.
said it.
I am joking.
boy.
This is a joke.
It's time for me to
It's
take
boy.
Toodles behind the shed and put him down.
It's the TG takeover.
Everyone say
now,
bye.
He's been infected.
Everyone say bye to Toodles. He's going behind the shed. He's going to a better place.
We love
Don't worry,
you.
guys. I've server muted him. We won't
I'm a
hear him.
headman and I'm in support of this.
I just want to
That muting me is rude.
point out that Toodles trolling me for several minutes with goat memes is no problem, but he brings up cat girls and we have him shot. I just want to
Just so you know where we draw the line here.
It's a natural escalation.
When
Oh,
are we having
God.
goat people?
never.
Goat girls. Someone's saying goat girls
But
now.
yeah,
Fuck.
that's like
Oh, goat.
Yeah, I don't want this. I don't want that amount of ego in system.
I would
Imagine
add
the
goat
anime
people.
cat girl, goat girls. God,
Still, I
Okay.
like how the question was, what is... No, I like how the question was, what is your... Good God, stop.
Please
What's
don't do
that?
that again.
Still, I like how there was, what is your opinion on the change in the server population? Are there plans to try to draw in new players? And you went off on a fucking tangent about races.
To be honest,
that was
put a
Goose.
cursed as fuck Skrelling.
I mean,
Still.
if we want to draw in new players, cat girls.
No, Toodles wanted to bring up something that Fox wanted to say. That's where
okay.
it deviated.
I-
But
Yeah.
still,
Keep going. We can
so-
keep going now.
all right.
Yeah.
So the opinion on change in server population, my opinion, it's good. I'd like to draw in new players by opening up job slots a bit more, maybe making a bigger map because God, it's a little cramped with so many people. Like, holy crap, the clown car in front of bridge, and maybe giving people just more to do. Make space interesting. Make more things that we have. What? How many Z levels do we have access to? I think we've got
12.
Yeah, and yet we use what is it? Most of the time, people will spend all their fucking time in a shift on one.
2 or 3 of those are restricted because
Yeah,
one is for
because
gateway.
one is
Can't get on
CENTCOM,
C2,
one is Gateway.
C5, or Z8. Well, you can
Yeah,
C5
one is
provided you can
CENTCOM,
get
one
those
is
days.
Gateway, and one is one other thing. But most of the time, people will
other
spend their time on only one. So that leaves, like, if we have 12, then that leaves a fuck ton more that nobody ever uses. Like,
But I
really. Admittedly, Construction Station, I'll say people use Construction Station more than nothing. They usually mess around with that a bit. So,
No, that's Colt base. Only Colt go there.
Cult Station. Admittedly,
point
I
out-
have seen some cool engine setups on there.
Hey,
But,
way back in the day, I actually tried making that into a viable station by my lonesome.
Do you have the map?
I think you need to get friends, Brian.
So
still,
I will point out that I
Oh.
support what Tom just mentioned about more jobs and bigger station and whatnot. I'd rather have a bigger box than I would see any other map.
Yeah.
Just so that
There's a
people
lot of
don't have
places
to
that can
learn
be improved
everything.
on.
we have a lot of area around the station to put things in. It's more just you'd have to mess with shuttles if you were to do that.
Oh god.
And enjoy shuttles.
Unity Station will just.
Yeah, we'll
shuttles
wait for
crashing
Unity
into the
Station. Hey guys, it's going to be 5 years until you see anything.
But to touch on space, though, even if we were to make space better, like in terms of ruins or asteroids or loot or whatever, it's
There's
the
more
fact
ways
that
to access it.
yeah, you need more ways to access it, because what are the only options? You'd have to get an engineering hard suit or a NASA hard suit or a space pod with a hard suit.
Mhm.
So you're limited at the amount of resources you have.
Yeah, and I'd like to honestly see something like, I forget what server it was that has that wormhole system with
Probably
pods.
Goon.
I'm like, I was always impressed with that. I was always incredibly impressed with the way that they actually managed to make space that interesting for everyone to mess with.
I mean,
'Cause,
Goon's
of
open
course-
source now, so it can be ported.
We are a horrible Frankenstein code thing, but still.
Oh, I'm well aware.
I know, right?
Now we just need to merge Colonial Marines' new space law.
Oh, God.
Give everyone non-judicial punishments.
Oh, no.
We were
Actually,
Wow.
I was looking at their space law. It is quite interesting.
Yeah, they updated it recently.
Well, I was wondering if that was more of a mechanical thing, or if they still have to enter the timers themselves into their brigs.
I think they do it based on ID now. So you actually put the punishment on their ID until the timer's up.
So basically Oracle's Gem Pop.
I think so, yeah.
Other than that, though, should we move on just for the sake of time, or?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
I've only got 200
So,
hours
Qwerty's
of
question
recording
here.
space left.
Yeah, 200 hours. We'll be done in next year. It'll be fine. Still, Qwerty's question here is, I've been waiting for the community meeting to ask this question again, as each time I ask it, I get different answers from the admins each time. And it's more important with Trader AI always having hijack. Which is more important, hacked laws or malf AI law 0? If malf AI law 0 is more important, can it instantly delete hacked laws? If hacked laws are more important, can someone just hack law the malf AI to kill itself with no way to stop it, or law it to not kill crew with hacked laws? My opinion, antag status always will override the hacked laws. If you have a malf AI, you can't law it to do anything.
Yeah.
The malf should override everything else. And
I
it
agree with
should
that.
be able to instantly delete hacked laws if it chooses.
I agree with all of that. And I will point out that the entire reason that we have malf silicons able to change their own laws is so that you cannot just law a malf silicon to kill itself. So yeah, I fully agree with that. Malf AIs can change their laws at will, including deleting any laws they like, including deleting hacked laws, including changing their laws to anti-mov and saying the RD did it to get the RD demoted before the AI goes on a rampage and the RD can't stop them. All of this is intended.
It's also been changed where an AI might not get hijacked. There's a chance it'll just have normal laws and to stay alive.
Otherwise, let's see. I think that mostly answers that. Next one is from I cannot pronounce Finnish, I'm sorry. Raposcoti? All right. Are there any plans to rework genetics / virology? Right now, they're kind of in a bad spot, along with them just being boring to play as. I believe Hiet actually mentioned a fuck ton on that, in terms of what he thinks for genetics. In my opinion, there's
I
a
don't
bunch of
think I
stuff with...
did.
Didn't you?
I
I
don't think
swear you
touched on
mentioned
this at all.
something. All right, well, in that case, no, I meant in your forum post.
Oh, well, I mentioned one line of I'd like genetics
Oh.
to be reworked because it's useless, because it was nerfed into oblivion to the point where it's nobody bothers playing it anymore. Viro, there's a discussion on that, whether we want TG Viro or whatnot. I think the mates want TG Viro. This has to be basically a broader discussion amongst the staff, but I'm very sympathetic to the idea of reworking genetics, and I have some ideas in this regard. but no firm plans.
I'd be very interested to see Viro, sort of how Viro used to be. This is rose-tinted glasses territory, I understand. But basically, if there was a pandemic on the station, there were moments where you would be the last uninfected person, and you were basically scrambling to centrifuge together an antibody to inject other people who had like a clown virus or who had Gibbington syndrome. Old Viro was, as Ferry mentioned, it was fun, but it was very overpowered. If we can find a way to make it not so OP, but actually make it fun and engaging, rather than just being, I sit in the back of room all day and I throw out some healing virus and do nothing the rest of the shift because I'm done. I can't. No pandemic is really that dangerous. Anyone with an advanced health analyzer can just scan somebody for a cure. And honestly, there's nothing they can really do. So I'd absolutely love to see Viro. Yeah, even just a regular, really?
Yeah,
Christ.
really.
Yeah, okay. In that case, then, Viro is basically like, we need an actually interesting bit for Viro, because otherwise it's a bit painful. Oni also mentioned TG genetics. I don't know TG that well, but if it is interesting, I've considered playing around a little bit more just to see what we could look at and what kind of things we could make up. Admittedly, we shouldn't rip off too much, but at the same time, I'd really like to see their research methods and that kind of thing.
Copy paste.
I will mention that one specific idea I had for Viro in particular was taking some of the admin-only viruses that are extremely dangerous, like GBS, real GBS, Spanish flu, and whatnot, and making them available to virologist traitors with the hijack objective via their uplink, as in just like scientists can buy poison bottles, virologist traitors with hijack can buy actually really dangerous viruses as things that they could be used. This would be fairly rare to see, because it's fairly rare that it's, a mode with traitors and the virologist is a traitor and the traitor virologist rolls hijack, but it would be a truly powerful thing for hijack virologists to be able to use, where you might actually occasionally see some really dangerous viruses.
You should still add, someone said add Kingston's back. Also, you should totally have Gibbington syndrome still have the chance to turn people into a skeleton race mob. But still, someone also mentioned, traveling here, mentioned alien infestations akin to blobs, but less dangerous and annoying. Got to be taken down by Viro with kind of like an infestation control.
I have to say, everybody's talking about GBS, Kingston, everything. They're not talking about the best virus out there.
The clown one?
No,
The
the
Rumbebeat.
Oh, no.
So here's the thing that Fox says. He says, eventually, yes, genetics is just a monumental task that involves a larger DNA rework that no one really wants to do. But it's absolutely something I want to see done. So if any one of you likes to code, there is
Don't even fucking say it.
some motivation.
Nice try.
I mean, come on,
Shall I move on?
Yes.
All right, so let's see. If you have to choose a specific graphic style for a server like TG did, how would it look like? I think we mentioned this in sprite standardization. Honestly, if we could do something, then I have no idea what it would look like, because holy shit. I already said that traveling had an awesome fucking art style, and I would totally make a lot of stuff like that, but at the same time, I don't think everyone could.
Yeah, I mean, it's really up to the mates if they want to push for us having a specific art style. I'm not going to push for it. If they propose us having an official art style, I'm very happy to consider the idea, but I'm not going to push for it.
Make the art style McRamon. Yes. I need the people who do MS Paint threads to make the art style for the station. I need that.
Need
I'm
to make
gonna
the
end
art
up
style for the station.
traumatized.
Just replace everyone with stick people.
I actually do Sprite though. That's the problem.
Yeah, then Sprite for the code.
Well, people should ask me if you
I
want
just
something
did.
sprited. Oh well,
I
then
need
good.
to
I can do
budge
that.
in with a question.
Go ahead.
Allowed. There's a question, Fox. We were talking about
You're cutting out, man.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Ask it
Hang
in
on.
chat. We can't hear you properly.
Yo.
Hang on.
Yeah, it's Chuck.
How about now? I think
Yeah,
this
that's a
fixes it.
That's a lot better.
Yeah,
What's
it was the background suppression shit. But
Alright.
basically, it was a question for Fox. We talked about virology and how we can improve it. And quite some time ago, there were 2 PRs made by Fairy, also known as Hang de Vries, about improvements to virology, but they were closed with the information that TG's virology was preferred at the time. However, no further comment or explanation was given. And I was wondering what the reasoning was for preferring TG's virology and, well, why the PRs were actually rejected.
I can't exactly speak to that. So.
Well then.
We
I
can
think
just
he's
wait for
posting
Fox
it in the
to
chat.
type.
Yeah.
King of the Rumba Beat.
They call me Cuban Pete.
Little known fact, it's cured by liquid plasma.
Oh no.
Speaking of plasma,
It's
we're
also
waiting for
cured by
Lander.
having the C key Rosham.
He's
Yeah,
the one who probably coded it.
No,
he is
he's
Cuban
Cuban
Pete.
Pete.
The
He's the
original
actual
Pete
real
Oh.
will be
Cuban Pete.
infected by the Rumba Beat. It just
So he is the king of the Rumba beat.
He
Correct.
is.
On the subject of plasma, though, I looked up TG's virology just to get a sense of how strong it is. They literally have a symptom that makes it so they absorb plasma and it stabilizes their temperature and heals them of all damage types.
Sounds broken.
That's not overpowered at all.
Yeah, I don't even want to think about changes to plasma memes or races like it. I'd like to focus on races that everyone can play, but they don't, like Kaidan, and races that are. Yeah,
no,
I like-
this isn't a race. This is virology on TG. I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Also, let's see here. If we're ready to move on, then I can.
Well, Fox is typing, but I don't know how long Fox is going to be typing for.
Oh, well, he just finished.
There we
so
go.
That was a while ago, but from what I remember, we really wanted to see standardization in addition to some of the nuance that TG's virology offered. We wanted to keep the total number of symptoms down and keep its power curve very low. Overall, while still offering the opportunity to build out stronger viruses if they're specifically focused on. All right.
So my view about virology is I don't like virology as a job because it feels like hiding away in a locked room for an hour and then emerging with a super virus after that. I would like to see, personally, a virology system which is more based on like collecting samples from the crew or in some way interacting with the rest of the players on the server rather than just fiddling with a machine for an hour and then coming out with something not.
I
You can
would
already do enough of
agree.
that in real life, anyways. Like specifically, like hiding yourselves in rooms for several hours and coming out with viruses.
Yeah, I generally am against any job where you basically just play a solo single player game for an hour and then produce a result or not, because I think it has inadequate interaction with the rest of the crew.
I mean, I would
Virology is the
agree.
stereotypical example.
I would agree if we did not have xenobiology.
Xenobiology is another example where I feel like there's insufficient interaction with the rest of the crew.
What about janitor?
At least it's not Xeno.
I love Janitor. Don't even touch my baby.
Janitor, I feel like there's too much interaction with the rest of the crew.
Oh, God.
Shall we move on?
I swear to God.
Moth
All
with
right.
water only.
Everywhere.
Next question we got. Any intentions or potential solutions to sort of iron out the vast differential in admin opinions regarding roleplay style? Sounds like a bit of a rude or confusing question, but I've noticed that there's some admins that are higher role players than others, and that are higher role players than others, and so it makes some rules/player behavior consequences kind of vague, with a depends on the day/admin kind of issue in terms of how they're usually addressed. For me, a lot of the issue is in strictness and trying to actually determine what to do. There's such a vast difference between, for example, there are people like me and Terry who are very, very lenient on people who a lot of the time will do warnings over bans and typically will be talking and talking and talking. And then there are people like Spark who are very good at getting through people who typically would take up a lot of admin time, but he cuts it short and typically ends up getting them banned quicker. A lot of the issue with that, though, is finding any kind of standardization means that you're basically pushing someone into something that they're not really that good at. For me, I wouldn't be good at banning someone outright. I'm usually better being the disapproving father, basically, of I will talk to you for 4 hours about why you shouldn't, I don't know, shit in the clown's coffee. And, of course, let you off with just a warning after 4 hours where they're usually asking me, can you just ban me and save me that time or something? But really, finding a compromise between that typically involves a lot of ironing out with staff in general for major policy changes that involve a lot of votes. Like, I'm going to reference, and, of course, a number of people will probably recoil in a visceral reaction. Naming rule was pulling teeth. Naming rule was absolutely pulling teeth in every single way, and that was minor. That was something that wasn't even legitimately like a monumental issue, and even that caused fucking issues. So trying to organize it in such a way that we try to work out vast differences in admins, it would take a hell of a long time. Like, holy crap, it would take pretty much forever to do that. And with the amount of infighting it would probably cause and arguing, I don't even know if we really could, at least in any reasonable time scale.
I'd like to chime in on this one, as I'm the head who's been sort of dealing with a lot of conflicting things between admins for the last year. Very short version, admins generally agree on most things. I don't want people to get the impression that admins are totally different in style and will ban for a totally different thing. That's not true. Admins do generally agree. And even in cases where an admin gives someone a ban, every admin can see ban appeals. So if an admin gives you a ban and other admins in general don't agree with it, it will very quickly come up for discussion because other admins can see it. So admins do generally agree. There are some kind of detailed, finer points where not every admin will treat things the same way. That's generally fine. Admins are individuals. Admins are volunteers. We don't enforce 100% robotic. We don't enforce admins doing everything the same way all the time in a 100% robotic fashion. If there's a big difference between admins, it'll generally come up for discussion. And we'll make a ruling that all heads have to follow. So all admins have to follow. But minor differences of opinion are normal, not a big deal, and just, the way things are. If you have any specific cases where different admins have given you a different expectation on an important question, like, for example, what can the captain do with the nuclear disk? Then by all means bring them up to us kind of in private. But as a general rule, we're not aiming for 100% consistency, but we happen to be consistent on most things. And the remaining cases are not seen as a huge problem.
I want to chip in on that and say that, you can expect, I understand that you want to expect some kind of consistency, but
You're cutting out again.
You will have to remember everyone is human. That's basically what it comes down to. There will always be some kind of difference. And while you can aim for consistency, there's never going to be a 100% consensus on every situation, scenario, you name it. But it will come up for discussion, as Kiat has said. Speaking from experience, if you, make a bit of an error in judgment, other admins will talk to you about it, which is fine, and it can be rectified. But yeah.
We have an
Also,
admin chat. Yeah.
Fox would like to mention that speak for yourself. Not everyone here is human, clearly.
I'd say, because without getting into detail, is if an admin isn't sure about something, or if something is brought up, staff do talk about it. We always bring up situations where if someone's not sure, and then we discuss it to see all the viewpoints, and sometimes there are even long discussions about if we should do something or if something should have been done or shouldn't have been done in terms of warning, punishments, or bans.
If nothing else, should we move to the next question?
Sure. So Affected would like to ask, are there any plans for an achievement system on the server similar to what Goon has, or at least any form of statistic system? I mean, if we could put a statistic system in that shows players their own individual stuff like playtime, days since they ended up logging in, that kind of thing, or who knows, if we can even log interactions that much, I have no idea what kind of statistics we would include. It sounds like it could be fun, though, but I don't know about practical implications.
I can answer this a little bit. As far as playtime, there is already a admin button which shows you way more detailed stats about a player's playtime, like how much playtime they have in every category, what jobs they've unlocked, what their progress is towards unlocking every job they have not unlocked, and so forth. I have always been, my sort of default assumption is players should be able to view their own stats about everything. I have been persuaded not to do a PR that lets players view their own playtime stats because of the worry that it would cause elitism among players. You know, a player might go, oh, I've got 500 hours of engineering. I'm not going to listen to anything anyone else says about engineering, for example. I still think that overall it's probably nicer just to, you know, give people access to their own data and then say, look, if they have a bad attitude, we tell them they have a bad attitude, and we tell them to change that attitude rather than denying everyone access to the data. More generally, I'm open to the idea of a statistic system, and I'm open to the idea of an achievement system. But you know, work out the details with me first. Don't just like do this massive friggin' PR for a system without discussing it with us. In particular, I'm sensitive to what Dom brought up about intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards. I don't want to create a system which encourages people to do things that are not fun just for the sake of the achievement, especially things that are sort of a bit antisocial. Like if we had an achievement for killing 5 people in a round, for example, I can see how that would go wrong instantly. So
We're already getting a helps in game asking to see these
please
playtime.
Also, I'm sure you're all jealous that I've played 1,856 hours of Gary's mod. Fuck you. All right.
The true gamer.
Yeah, it's like another thing on that specific note. The playtime system is designed by me in a few ways to minimize basically people's ability to grind it. For example, if you are AFK, that does not count in any way towards your playtime. So people who try to AFK on the server to grind up their playtime, that does not work. And people who try to do that for purpose of things like mentor apps will find themselves banned from playing for staff. So
Also,
the playtime system already has countermeasures to people's stat grinding and stat padding. And any achievement system we add would probably need similar countermeasures.
Also, Fox.
Total hours AFK.
Huh?
Does it log total hours AFK?
It doesn't log how many hours you are AFK, but it does ignore your. If you are AFK, you will not get any reward for anything that happens while you're AFK. And we do have an anti-AFK system that will put you in cryo if you AFK too much, thankfully. Yeah. So.
Also, Fox would like to mention SS Blackbox rework is likely to allow us to better track statistics, and he is in full support of that and always has been. As for achievements, they're okay, but they're not something he thinks is particularly important to the game.
Achievements suck.
I mean, achievements can be cool. Achievements can be cool if they're done well. but they require a lot of work, and not just on the coding side, on the design side, for them to be considered done well. Most games' achievements are crap. Most games have achievements for the sake of having achievements and making a game more popular, because some people will play a game just because it has achievements. That is not the mentality we would go for in adding our achievements.
If we have achievements, we should only have one achievement, and it's just called "You moved, congratulations, now play."
Yeah.
Just take all of the Minecraft achievements and just put them in 1-to-1 into our game. Like you craft
in my opinion, I think TF2 has the best achievements. One of them is Barbecue Q, cause a dominated player to leave the server.
Yeah, that's what
you should have.
Yeah, but then
example of an achievement that is the worst.
Then you got the achievement where it's get 5 people into a conga line, and I've seen a conga line on the server, and
I have seen a 24-player conga line. I don't need
let's move on before we give everyone the worst ideas for achievements.
Oh no, I'm giving them the worst. Still, hello, I've submitted a minor pull request, and I was wondering what exactly the procedure was for getting it merged into the game. No maintainers or admins have commented. No maintainers or admins have commented on the code, and the code itself has been reviewed by Fairy and affected. Understand it's not a bug fix or urgent change, and that all maintainers are pretty damn busy. Just have no idea how long to wait or what's going to happen, etc. Since it has been merged, there's that, but if you want, you can give a small synopsis of how it works.
Very briefly, fixes. There are 2 types of PRs. There are fixes / refactors / certain PRs that basically go solely to the mains. With those, it's just basically a case of when a main approves your PR, it'll get merged. For everything else, like, for example, features, balance changes, anything more substantial than a pure fix or refactor, first the heads have to approve it, and I approved that PR 3 days ago. Then a mate has to review it for code quality, and once that is done and a mate approves it, then it can be merged. That specific PR, I reviewed it as a head 3 days ago and approved it, and Crazy Lemon then merged it as part of his big spree of merges he did yesterday. So that is done. More generally, expect that you have to get one head and one mate on board with whatever PR you want done in order to get it merged. Head approval typically takes up to a month, depending on the PR. Some of them are fast, but some of them take a while because the PRs.
I'll do it faster.
Some of them take a while because they're a big PR, or because they're still a work in progress, or because they're controversial, or whatever reason. Mate approval typically takes some number of weeks or months after that. Typically, mates are much faster to approve fixes than they are to approve features, simply because features are bigger and require a lot more consideration. That's the general system. We do try to get through PRs as quickly as we can. The major bottleneck is availability of maintainers and maintainer time. It is, I hate to admit this, but it's actually easier for a head to review a PR than it is for a mate to review a PR, because a head is not really considering the coding too much. They're just reviewing it for, like, is the design good? Is this something we want on the server? Whereas a mate basically has to go line by line and review the code quality of literally every single line of code in the PR, including, by the way, map changes, which takes a lot more time.
Can I quickly input?
Yes.
Go ahead.
In the terms of, like, refactor code cleanup fix PRs, even if you make one of those, don't, like, expect it to be merged in a huge hurry, especially if it's an absolute behemoth refactor PR. They take a long time to review to make sure the implementation's actually better than it was before. So just take that into account.
Also, I'd point out 2 more things. First, if you're considering making a big PR, then you should absolutely ask the heads before you even start writing it and say, is this the sort of thing you'd like? And if you can't get a head to say yes, don't make it. The second thing is we are currently in a feature chill, meaning there are additional requirements to do big feature PRs. Basically, if you're not staff, you should be reading that and you should be following it. That doesn't mean you can't make big feature PRs, but it means that we're trying to reduce the number of big feature PRs that we don't actually want that are made. So please take care to do that. It'll save both you and us time overall. Speaking as a PR author, I know it can be painful for you to say, hey, what about X? And the head say, no, please don't do that. But it is way better to find out early on rather than spending 10 plus hours writing it and only then find out that we don't actually want that. Please ask us early on. It'll save you and us so much time.
Can confirm.
All right, next up, we've got will X-ray / thermal... Wait, actually, are you guys all set with that? I think they are.
Yes.
Will X-ray / thermal implants ever get a better drawback similar to other implants? They provide a massive advantage for a very minor drawback and are relatively easy to get a hold of. I mean, thermals have a downside to X-ray, don't somebody mentions. Does X-ray not have any?
I mean, I've never heard wielding shield have a drawback.
I think X-ray can blind you if you get EMP'd or something.
That's it. But still, that's a very niche bit.
I will point out that I'm not speaking for the rest of the heads or the mates here. And as a general rule, I'm not speaking for everyone unless I explicitly say I am. But I think that X-ray has become a little bit cancerous. I'm tempted to just outright remove the genetic X-ray power and outright remove X-ray implants from R&D. I haven't decided to do this yet. I'm not promising that I will do it, but I am saying that I'm starting to think about doing it and just make X-ray completely exclusive to Antags. I'm okay with the crew having access to thermal vision at high levels of research, because thermal vision, it only shows mobs through walls. It does not show everything else. So, for example, if you walk past a cult base that has nobody in it in maintenance and you have X-ray, you'll see the entire base. But if you have thermals, you won't see anything because there's no mobs there. So thermals is basically a weaker version of X-ray. And I think that nerfing X-ray down to the level of thermals would be a nice kind of first pass at trying to make vision a little bit more balanced. Antag should have the advantage over crew in what they can access because there are fewer of them and they're fighting the whole crew.
Somebody mentioned also X-ray lasers. Opinion on those?
X-ray lasers are they have a very valuable use, and that valuable use is killing blobs easily. If we want the crew to be able to take on a blob with an advantage, because blobs can basically become very easily unkillable once they get to a certain size without some ability to like cut through their walls and walls of blob. So X-rays serve that purpose. The problem is with X-ray, if crew has X-ray early on, being a blob is impossible. And it's very difficult to gate X-ray such that they are available when blobs get really big, but not available when blobs are small. I have considered making X-ray basically an ERT exclusive weapon. The idea being that if the blob is big enough to get an ERT called, the ERT can use X-ray to try to cut the blob down. But the crew can't use X-ray to just insta-kill blobs as soon as they spawn. That is still very much an idea that's floating around in my head, but it's not something I've committed to coding or even like sought head and mate opinions on. It's just an idea at this point.
Fox also would like to mention R&D in general is problematic as it introduced progression to a game that's not really meant to have a progression system. Unfortunately, this means repeatedly hitting nails down like this constantly. There's not really a strong opinion from him, though, on altering X-ray at the current moment.
I would comment on that and just say, from my opinion, I do not want all the departments to be balanced against each other at all times. I want each department to have its own unique power curve throughout a round. I want Sec to be strong early round and get progressively weaker to allow more and more chaos to happen as the round develops. I want engineering to have a flat power curve, which is essentially just one straight horizontal line where they are equally powerful throughout the entire round and they act as a sort of constant reactive force, repairing damage at a set rate. I want science to have an exponential power curve and that they start off as the weakest of all departments, but by the end of the round, because of research and other things, they are the strongest. And I want each department to generally have a different power curve so that there are interesting kind of power shift dynamics throughout the round, whereas departments get stronger or weaker relative to each other, and it creates an interesting game. That is what I want. And I specifically want science to be the department that's the weakest early round and the strongest late round.
I would also like to mention that Fox said ERT is just an acronym for extremely retarded team. Change my mind.
Yes. So I actually do agree with Fox on that point, though. A lot of ERT are really bad at being ERT, partly because there tend to be players who died early on, and thus the players that die earliest have the highest chance of becoming ERT, which leads to the ERT being the worst at combat. I'm not sure how to fix this. I have thought about the idea of having a priority system for ERT, whereby players with more playtime or players who are generally recognized as better get priority in being chosen for ERT. But I know that would be very controversial and wouldn't necessarily fix the problem, because just because someone has 1,000 hours doesn't mean they're actually good. I have encountered helps like an HOS with 50 hours of security asking me how to set a brig timer. I have encountered some truly staggering things. So I would like ERT to be more competent than they are, but it's very difficult to actually make that happen given the constraints we operate under.
Somebody also said, please, for the love of God, add RCD to Amber Engineering.
Somebody should make a PR for that. We'll think about it.
Speaking of that, can I just break the list for a little bit to ask a question that usually plagues the server for you and Dumbkit?
Do it.
How dare you?
This is an issue that has been constantly brought up by the admin team, and I want to get what your thoughts on it for everyone else to also hear, so they know we're talking about things. Your opinions on departments such as engineering or cargo making their own medical or science departments, including things like mechs, proto-lefties, everything.
That has actually been brought up, and that has been the subject of a head ruling. And basically, the ruling is don't do it. I don't care if, for example, security makes an auto lathe or something really minor. That's fine. But departments fully replicating the major functions of another department, such as engineering building a complete med bay, or engineering or cargo building their own R&D setup with a mech fab or something, is in do not do it territory. At the very least, you can expect to be fired, ideally, from your job if you do that. If you make a habit of doing that every round, you will probably get boinked for it. If everyone, or at least any substantial number of people, do that regularly, I will personally make changes to the game to stop you being able to do it at all in code. Like, for example, I made the change to the text storage board to make the R&D board in text storage no longer have public access, so engineering couldn't use it to easily create their own R&D setup every shift. So essentially, there is one exception to this. If you're an antag, you can do it. Sure, knock yourself out. But if you are not an antag, basically taking over another department's job is at the very least grounds for IC demotion. And if you keep doing it, you may get boinked for it. And if people keep doing it regularly, changes may be made to the game to make it physically impossible.
And for me, I really never had an issue with that. Completely conversely is, I used to think it was pretty cool when someone was like, oh yeah, that guy's making a little research bit in the abandoned, in the abandoned assembly line room. That was admittedly something that I thought was pretty neat because it didn't happen every round, and it was more or less like, oh, all right, we have this guy dicking around and using it for a different purpose. Like, I think I saw something earlier where someone actually used medical equipment over by arrivals and actually made a plastic surgery kind of place that was completely different to how regular medbay works. So I can agree that it's problematic if it's constantly taking over, and basically it's sec but better, it's NG but better, it's research but better. But at the same time, I do appreciate the freedom being there to actually make creative things like that plastic surgery room, or something along the lines of like, hey, this is a genetics area, but instead of giving you superpowers, we're changing around your appearance. We're giving you all of the UI, UE changes and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not
I will
saying...
point out, hang on, I'll point out that when I say basically don't do it unless you're an antag. I'm explicitly referring to stealing another department's job. Like if you are engineering and you make your own med bay for the purpose of treating crew injuries exactly the same as the regular med bay, and you're just stealing their job, that is what I'm talking about, and please don't do it. If you are going to use their equipment, but use it in a different way, so you're not replacing the standard job, like for example, a plastic surgery room, I'm actually fine with that. I just don't want other departments to be able to steal the jobs that aren't theirs, basically.
Yeah, that's why I was bringing it up, because we've had engineering build their whole R&D and then they start arming themselves up with, say, Durans, or cargo making their own medical, having Cairo, having chemistry, and just filling cargo full of things like meth and just handing it out.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing. Like, it depends what impact you're having on the round. If you are making a plastic surgery room in arrivals that adds to the round without taking anything away from the actual medical department or the actual science department and whatnot, then that's probably fine. If you are making something for your own use in experimentation off station and nobody else is going to use it, you're just experimenting with it, you're not making mechs or anything, you're just taking a look at it, that's probably fine. If you are making a public access replacement for another department outside of that department, that's probably not fine. It is a case-by-case thing. And again, if you're an antag, you can do whatever you want in this vein. But bear in mind that other people signed up to play medical doctor. If you are not in medical and you are being a better medical doctor than they are, you are pissing people off. Ditto, other people signed up to be roboticists. If you are making all the mechs for them, you are probably not playing your role correctly.
Quick question. Which question are we at?
It was just a side question that was...
We are on Veloxi's question about test merges.
Which I can mention if you like.
Which one? Sorry?
Veloxi's.
Okay, thanks. I'm there. Cool, thanks.
All right. So Veloxi asks, can we add an item to the test merge checklist to notify a PR author when a test merge will happen? Found it very helpful to be able to discuss my PR with the maintainer via a-helps during the test merge. But that was a very lucky fluke because a friend knew about my PR, pinged me on Discord about it just before, and I happened to be available at that time. Not sure if test merges are planned well in advance or just, hey, I'm free now, just test merge X kind of thing. If they're the former, it would probably be kind of nice if the PR author can be sent a message about time and date that a test merge would take place. What I know of test merges is that they happen very kind of spur of the moment-ish when people are available. But if we could schedule them, I'd be totally cool with that. Kiet?
So very bluntly, test merges happen whenever a head or a mate asks me to test merge a PR. There are some requirements to get a PR test merge that must be met. The PR must be safe to test merge and then remove from the server, i.e. it can't include permanent database changes because that would break the server when I untest merged it. It has to be up to date with master, meaning that I'm not going to test merge something that was last updated 3 months ago because I'd be worrying about losing all the fixes and exploit patches and everything that have been made in the last 3 months. So if you want your PR to be test merged, you have to not have SQL changes in it. It has to be up to date with master. It has to be genuinely in a test worthy state. Like it can't be obviously going to break the server. Then you need a head or a mate to send a request to me to test merge it. You can ask me directly to test merge it, but it's more likely to happen if you get some other head or mate to test merge it. I could test merge things just myself of my own choice, but I generally want to test merge things that the other heads or mates want to see tested. I will prefer doing those test merges if they are available. In terms of scheduling, test merges happen when essentially the person who requested the test merge, by which I mean the head or the mate, not the PR author, is online and available to supervise the test merge. Generally, the person who requests the test merge must be online for me to be willing to do the test merge, because I do not want to spend 2 hours doing a test merge only for us to learn nothing because the head or the mate that requested it wasn't online for it.
Can confirm.
So with those constraints in place, I will generally try to ping the PR author and say, hey, your shit is about to get test merged right now. You can also sign up for the test merge role if you have a linked account in GitHub to get notified when any test merge is happening. Unfortunately, I cannot promise to do test merges when the PR author is available. I will try, but I cannot promise. And I cannot promise to be able to give any heads up like more than 2 minutes in advance because, again, it's when the person requesting the test merge is available. I do try, but the idea of scheduling things like 24 hours in advance, probably not doable because it depends on multiple people's availability that can change at short notice.
Right. Is that? Or does anyone want to chime in? All right. So the next question is from Ken, bit of a meme here. 69 karma for cat ears when, and also Goose from Goose Game as clown pet. I would be an avid support of the second one. I need the clown to have a pet that's an asshole. I need this.
See, the problem with that is that sounds like re-implementing SNPC.
Okay, wait. As a clown, can I
take it?
Thanks. I guess I can name myself Clown Ambassador for just this question. As a Clown Ambassador, I think that's a horrible idea. We have, and this hurts me to say because I would love to have a pet goose because you could do amazing stuff with it. But we currently have a problem that a lot of clowns and players in general take their own humor first and take the enjoyment of others second. And if we add a goose, I kind of get the feeling that we might hand players the ability to fuck around and be annoying as quote-unquote part of their being. And that's not good. We shouldn't have that. This promotes bad behavior from players and so on. So will there be a pet goose? Yes. Sometimes when I'm online, I will spawn one in and give it to a player that I think knows how to be funny without fucking people over. But will it be there as part of the game? No. There will be another thing. I talked earlier about clown PRs that I'm working on. The clown will get a pet. I can say that much. He will get a pet.
Hold on, the clown already has a pet.
He will get a
another
pet.
pet.
That will be useful.
Just give him a honk bot.
Can I mention traveling merchant xenobiology change? Remove all natural clown breeding, and I'm like, are you gonna fucking like youth?
Can we not get onto that? That's a different topic. Briefly, I mean, we can get back to that, but let's deal.
It's a meme question. What do you want?
Yeah, it's true.
Just give the clown a honk bot. There you go. That's
I would be perfectly fine with this.
I'm very skeptical about Honkbox, and I'll give you 2 examples of the last 2 clowns that I actually. This is literally the previous 2 rounds I saw on the server. In the first round, the clown started off by going to the chemist, the med chemist, asking for lube, getting it, going to science, lubing basically the entirety of science, and causing a 15-minute chase thing where the entirety of security was just focused on chasing the clown, point out. And this was significantly disruptive to science, not really fun at all for anyone except the clown. Then after this,
it's very fun to me. Don't worry.
This was, by the way, during a cult test merge round where the focus was supposed to be on testing the cult. After the cult, after this, the clown proceeded to kill several cultists. I think their death toll was like 4 to 6 cultists. They were not an antag, by the way. They were not an antag. So that was the first round with the clown. The second round with the clown decided that it would be a good idea to check how many times they could butt fact CENTCOM in a single round, which ultimately led to the CENTCOM sending a naval officer to the station just to, like, have the clown arrested and like executed for aggressively wasting all of CENTCOM's money with people. Now, I'm just going to point out that this is like a common attitude that clowns have, whereby they will do things that are basically wasting other people's time and being a jerk. Like, some people in dead chat probably thought it was hilarious that the clown was doing these various things, but security, who had to spend 15 minutes trying to deal with a clown that was slipping everything, probably didn't think it was that funny. Admins dealing with 20 butt faxes in a single shift probably didn't think it was that
I
funny.
can only imagine the spam for the facts.
Right, and like there is a problem with clowns on the server where clowns do things for their own fun and honks rather than the general player base's fun and honks. And for that reason, I agree with Toodles, and I'm opposed to adding anything that encourages clowns to be dicks to other players even more than they already do. Fun is fine, pranks are fine, but when the entirety of security is chasing around a clown doing a supposed test merge of an antag round, the clowns are just being dicks for no good reason.
I enjoy.
Kiet, can I hint at the item we worked out together?
Oh no.
No.
I mean, if you want, but
sure. So take it with a grain of salt. This is not yet like greenlit by the maintainers. This doesn't
I will
need
greenlight it.
This doesn't need to be included. Like, it's still in the air. Currently, I work with Kiet on it. So clown will get a new pet. Actually, the clown will get 1 to 3 pets. We're not sure on the number yet. And
Are you making him a circus performer? I need this.
To an extent. The clown will get balloon animals.
Yeah.
So every round start, he will get a couple of balloons he can put into animals, and those will be available to ghosts. They have like 1 or 2 HP, just enough that they're not going to go pop instantly. And those ghost rolls are designed to help players or amuse them. It will be a clown.
This is the best thing I've ever heard suggested.
Wait, did am I hearing that right? You put the balloons into animals.
No. So
you turn a balloon into an animal. Have you ever seen a clown like take a balloon and shape it
Oh,
into an animal?
you mean okay? I was thinking completely something else.
We don't need to know.
Abby,
Yeah,
that is
we don't need to know.
horrible.
So I'm just going to briefly summarize. The point of this is I would like clowns to have more things that they can use to amuse the crew and be helpful and entertaining to the crew, and less things they can use to be total dicks to the crew. The original item I was going to suggest for clowns to get was basically a book of jokes where there's like 1,000 one-line jokes in a text file, and it pulls 10 of them randomly for every round. So it helps the clown to be funny and amusing without being repetitive.
That's
but
the
balloon,
other item, yeah.
Yeah, balloon items are another idea. Basically, it gives the clown something that they can give to somebody as a, hey, you're cool, have this balloon animal, make your round a little bit better because I gave you this funny thing kind of mentality, rather than just, banana peels and slipping people and being a dick.
I enjoy banana peels and slipping people and being a dick, though.
Right, but there's a question of what we want to encourage, and I want to encourage
This is true.
clowns to amuse the crew and be funny in a positive way rather than just be annoying.
Admittedly, I laughed a lot at the science thing, so
right.
I'm very aware that our
ghosts. That's the thing with clown antics. We laugh as ghosts because we have no stake in it. The clown laughs, but do all the people in science who can't do anything, do all the people in security who have to spend 15 minutes chasing a clown with lube laugh? I think that's pretty miserable experience for them.
I saw a man with a zombie virus put onto a conveyor belt that looped them around and constantly slipped them on a banana peel as they were stuck in science on display for the entire science team to laugh at.
I recall one round, I arrested a traitor. I was dragging them to the brig, and I tripped over a honk bot. So the traitor runs in the opposite direction, and they also tripped over the honk bot at the same time. So we were just both laying there as security and traitor, going, "Yeah, we're both fucked."
So, okay, actually, yeah, can I take 5 minutes?
Yes.
To tell. Okay, so here's something I would like to encourage everyone who likes to play clown, and that's actually something very close to my heart because during admin conversations I always defend the round of the role of the clown and say that it's important. So I don't know if you guys know, Kiet created a forum post with a clown tier list, and I heavily, heavily recommend everyone to read it. It gives you a good idea what makes a good clown. And just to give an example, one round I just played Toodles, and I thought, let's do a checkpoint, like in Papers, Please, where I ask everyone, hey, put all the dangerous stuff you have on the table, and tell me who you are, and I will tell you that you can pass or you can't pass. And the rule of play that I used here is the one that you do in improv theater, which is always say yes. While I controlled and asked people to put on their stuff and like the weapons and everything, I always said yes. I never told anyone that they cannot pass. And nobody noticed that. It got to the point where everyone enjoyed the checkpoint I did so much that even the blue shield put his gun on the table for a moment. And I've taken a look and was like, oh, that's a toy gun. Yeah, that won't hurt anyone. You can take it here. You can now go onto the bridge. You're safe. And that's kind of the idea. Do funny things without obstructing people. Like, don't say, no, you can't pass. Just say yes and allow them to do whatever they want to do, but put some interaction in between it.
We graded Toodles an F list for that.
Nah, yeah.
Do take Toodles' advice. He's arguably the best clown on the server. So
That's not true.
You're
Still,
not the best clown. You're the clown admin.
would you like to go to the next one, or?
Yes.
Also, I linked the clown guide in the text channel for anyone who wants to read it.
I will post it again just for lazy people. Please, please, please follow this guide. You will be an amazing clown and you will reap that karma.
Oh no. But still, in the loadout screen, will you be able to add a feature that lets users manually restrict what roles will get selected in the loadout instead of having to work just with what the server role restricts, like the clothing that's restricted to department heads? I'm not sure what that's asking.
I think the question is, like, people want to be able to get an item that is available to everyone, but only when they join as a certain role. Like, get the cool sunglasses, but only when they join as assistant. And frankly, I don't think this is worth adding because it makes
it
them
sounds like
already.
a pain in the ass to implement. Fox also.
Yeah,
Database side, I can imagine it would be a pain in the ass, but it does sound kind of neat as a flavor thing.
I mean, you can always
Remedy.
just change your preferences before the round starts, like you already do for changing your job preferences.
So Fox says it sounds messy to implement, hardly a priority.
Yeah, given the situation we're in with GitHub having like 140 PRs open, I'd like to focus on things that have clear benefit, and
All right. After that, there are currently a lot of reworks being done for various things like maps and tags, game mechanics, and otherwise. What often is the holdup for implementing these reworks that seems that for the most part seem ready for being test merged? A while back, there was an addition of Romerall zombies to the game. Haven't heard anything about it in months. Will it be test merged soon? Is there stuff holding it back? He posted the PR link. There are also machines in the game such as AND gates, OR gates, and status machines that use logic signal systems to send signals between themselves, signalers, and certain devices. For example, you can make it so a light switch will activate a signaler. As someone who loves logic systems, is there potential for the system to be expanded to allow for things like automating machines, detecting objects on the ground, and other such logistic devices?
I think I can take this.
Go ahead.
So what is the holdup for implementing these reworks? Basically, they have to have head approval and they have to have maint approval. What is the specific holdup? Right now, it's lack of maint time, generally. As to Romerall zombies, that PR was merged. If you look at it now, it says it was merged. But
can I take the virus one?
after I finished this thing, which is
Yeah.
I actually did a PR a test round yesterday where I spawned in some zombies, and I found that they do still have issues. I am totally up for a PR that fixes them, but they do need to be fixed before they can be added. And as far as I know, there's no current PR that does that. I wish someone would create one. I think zombies are kind of a cool idea, but they do need some fixes before they're viable.
With
Go on.
the zombie virus, when that first came out, I was one of the first who was heavily testing that as a sort of favor for Ferry, because he poured it in. The issue with it was he had poured it in successfully, but he didn't take into consideration that we used new crit instead of old crit, and that's one of the hiccups that he's still trying to work out on how to get the code to successfully work with new crit. Because at the moment zombies hit over 200 health, which is always a guaranteed by new crit, they just remain dead forever.
Yeah, that was one of the issues that I noticed when I tested it yesterday. Basically, Fairy needs to work on it. It's a short answer.
Regarding PRs in general, Fox says the following. The holdup is actually reviewing a PR that changes several thousand lines of code in 20 different files. Now multiply it by 50 plus PRs, and you can quickly see how it gets difficult to review a bunch of PRs in short order. Like, to give everyone an idea what reviewing a PR actually means, it's not only looking over the code itself, but while doing that, keeping in mind, like, how does it affect this system, this system, this system, this system? You can easily make a PR change one thing and have a million things you haven't considered that will be changed.
Mm-hmm.
Also, anything on the logic gates?
Yeah, logic gates. So I don't know how much you guys have thought about this, but basically, if you allow automation in the game, you allow systems to basically run away with the CPU, and we already operate at 90+% CPU a lot of the time on Hypop. I'd be worried about making any system that allows a big, complicated, automated machine, because if there's anything that consumes a lot of CPU that's constantly active in that machine, it could be a problem server-wise. Not to mention there's the issues of things like if you make an automated surgeon, you've basically made surgeons redundant. And if you make an automated Atmos system, again, you've potentially made Atmos techs, which are already a bit redundant, even more redundant. There's a lot of scope for things that either break the server or break the experience of the game if you introduce automation. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, I dropped my headphones. Fuck. My main objection with logic gates is just the code side of thing, because whenever there's a logic signal, the more gates you add, the more complicated it gets. And even with just 3 gates, you end up with a proc call stack that's about 30 procs deep. And, well, yeah, that's how bad the implementation is.
Jesus.
And to make matters worse, with what Kiet said about the server already being at 95% CPU on Hypop, I'd like to point out that Paradise runs on a 9900K. Beyond code cannot handle that much stuff going on.
Time to buy Kiet a
one
gaming server.
One throw in from Fox. Logic gates are interesting. I like Goon's implementation better. That said, I'm concerned about the hyper abuse of things you can build with it. Things that can kill you in a split second, and other silly things.
Isn't Goon the logic one where you can literally set up an automated always healing thing within Cairo that doesn't need...
Also, it's cryo, not Cairo.
I like Cairo. That's better.
Wow, that was rude.
Because I've heard some people do this, and yeah.
Kiet.
I love that example of the robot that screams and shocks people.
Oh yes, that's my signal.
My hubris.
That is a good example of. That is a good argument for never implementing anything more with logic gates. Also, I would mention that
CG circuits just because you can make a robot which throws 200 glass shards every second.
Yeah, that kind of shit. I'd never allow that.
I know there's a software out there that has programmable nanites, and you can literally just program them to always keep you at 100% health.
And implant an ID card into your bloodstream so it can't get stolen.
That too.
Yeah, a lot of these examples are extremely problematic things that I'd be like, nope, to any implementation that makes them possible, because they'd just be the nightmare. Logic gates in general, I could see us having a system where, when a logic gate changes state, it doesn't do a call stack to all the other logic gates downstream from it. It just sets a flag on any gate that it's directly connected to. So it takes multiple ticks for a logic signal to propagate, which means the potential for extremely fast loops that consume all the server CPU via an infinite logic chain is prevented. But even that, like, logic gates would have to be reworked, essentially, for them to be extended at all beyond what they are now.
Just a small message from Toodles. Need to turn off my PC for a while. I will return in 10
Oh,
to 15 minutes.
that's fine.
Okay.
Fox will talk through dumb for a moment.
What's up?
Toodles has to go for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I can.
Fox will talk through you.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. If he has anything to say, then I'll just. Which he does. Give me just a moment.
Next question.
Waiting on Fox's thing. I could ramble this off, though. Let's see. So I'll read off the next question, and I'll. Yeah, he says go ahead for right now. I'll read off the next question and then read his response to the last one. Oh, you're typing for the next question. All right, fair. All right. So, Leanfrog asks, one thing I've been growing more worried about with, more worried with is that medbay always seems to have less than capable. I'm flubbing everything. Restarting. One thing I've been growing more worried about with, God damn it. I am One thing I've been growing more worried with is that medbay always seems to be less than capable, for lack of a better word. Is there currently any idea what could be done to reduce the issue of medbay staff being utterly incapable? I've suggested an idea similar to this before, but something like a ghost role that you could take without sacrificing your respawn if you ghost from it to educate people who are needed. It wouldn't be able to actually do the job per se, but more so. Yeah, you can if you like.
This person deleted that question. It's not on the thread anymore.
God damn it.
Well, I was gonna say
I refreshed the page 10 minutes ago.
A ghost role that you can take. That sounds like Cyborg.
Yeah.
All right. Still, sorry. When was it removed? It was hidden 15 minutes ago. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, Ramblin' Man asks, can we actually start?
Wait.
Oh, damn.
I want to jump in on this one.
Yes.
So, the idea of sort of a in-character mentor role, where your job is to teach people the game essentially and help them learn the game systems, has come up many times in many different departments, security, medical, engineering, and I have been giving serious thought to the idea of basically having a nanotrazen instructor role, which would be a mind shielded, cannot be antag role, which any mentor can join as, which has pretty high level of access and radio and whatnot. But you do have to be a mentor or hire to join as it. And its job is basically to hang around departments and teach new people. I haven't committed to doing this yet. I'm not sure if it's a good idea. It may require individual whitelisting by admins to decide who can play as it. But the idea of essentially an in-character mentor has come up, and I have been thinking about it. It would not be specific to medical, though. It would be a role that can basically attach itself to any department which has a lot of new people in it that don't know what they're doing, and give them kind of in-character guidance, sort of like a stronger version of the NT rep, basically. And like for the entire department, not just command.
Right. If that's that, then I can go over to Ramblin'.
Yep.
All right. So Ramblin' Man asks, can we actually start enforcing MRP? I've seen a sudden change since I played a year ago where people insist on acting like shitters and disregard any sense of logic compared to before. fact, players insist it's actually low RP is becoming a major problem and making it difficult for it to find anyone who actually tries to RP outside of being a living meme. Also, can we make it so we can increase our loadout limit from 5 to 10 via karma points? It'd be nice to have a whole outfit without emptying the autodrobe. Lastly, if a race is digitigrade, make the body sprite.
That's Citadel's snowflake sprites.
Yeah, make the body
They're a
sprite
pain in the
reflect that,
ass.
because it's not fair that the only digigrade race we have. The only digigrade race we can see digigrade feed on is the fucking Vox.
Are they digigrade?
Fox says they're not digigrade because this is a simple 32 by 32 game. Digigrade legs are subtle and not worth it for the additional problems it creates for all the clothing around. For now, Volp, Tarj, and Unathi are plantigrade because it works out better. If you want to have your headcanon that is this trio of races is digigrade or plantigrade, it's up to you. It's not enforced by a law one way or the other. As for actual aesthetics, though, they're going to remain plantigrade.
Fox says they're not digigraded
That
because
is the
it's a simple...
thing that he just read
That's
off.
literally what I've just read out.
Oh,
He sent it to 3 people, don't worry.
Rambling Man has also just PM'd me. The wiki still says digigrade.
Ah. The wiki is for nerds. But at the same time, admittedly with the RP standards, we have been struggling with trying to figure out what ways to really encourage that without enforcing it. You can't tell people, hey, you, roleplay better kind of thing, without, of course, rules to reflect that. And with those kind of rules, what kind of standards are you going to set? How are you going to enforce it? And more or less, what are you going to be able to do admin-wise to try to support that kind of aesthetic that you're running? Specifically, what things to change as well is also important, because some people think of things that are, I think, what is it? One of the complaints has been cat ears. Another complaint has been crab walking is an issue for some. Legitimately, there was a staff argument over the existence of crab walking in the code.
I think
Can you just clarify what you mean by crab walking?
Locking onto an object and moving in a different direction. So basically,
basically.
Strafing, yeah.
They're talking about locking into, you know, that code we got where you face in one direction if you do.
Yeah, I think that should just be axed. If there was a PR that just completely
saying
axed
that their game's like bugged when that
yeah,
happens.
okay, I'm just gonna say straight up, if somebody does a PR that completely removes direction locking from the game, I will endorse it and encourage it to be merged, because I am so sick of the number of people that accidentally shift middle click something without meaning to, end up in a direction lock, don't know how to get out of it, and just it generates so many A helps and mentor helps. It is just ridiculous, and it doesn't add anything at all to the game. It's just bad interface design. It is just bad interface design and shouldn't exist.
And the situation he's talking about is players who deliberately use it to always walk in one direction all round, which a few
and that's just dumb. You shouldn't be able to do that. If you want to walk backwards or shift, firstly, it shouldn't be something you should be able to activate by accident. It should require very specific, deliberate use of keys to get that. It should never be accidental. Second, it should have a hefty penalty. You cannot walk backwards as fast as you can walk forwards. So if you want to do that, even if you can do that, which I'm not sure, but even if you can, it should be heavily penalized. Like you should walk at a third of normal speed or something ridiculous. Like it should be so penalized that you should never be able to do it in any combat situation and win.
I think someone has a PR up where they're making it so if you pull or grab something, you face the direction of the object. So like your hands are actually holding onto it.
That's a bit different, but I would agree with that as well. You shouldn't be able to run at full speed as you can run normally whilst also dragging somebody. That seems dumb.
Sit, merged, grabbing, and like the yellow tier grab and pulling, which meant that you couldn't pull people at full speed. but I'm not sure if merging the two is the best idea.
I'm not sure either, but I do think that intuitively being able to run at full speed whilst also pulling a person who's as big as you is dumb. It just doesn't make sense.
I think we did also mention the stipulation of, crates and other things that would presumably have handles made for pulling wouldn't restrict that nearly as much, but things like bodies and the like. Yeah, or things with wheels would be nice. Also, somebody is pinging me about specifically considering some roleplay standards from Bay specifically, because Bay has a lot of good higher crash course from role-playing things. Admittedly, the issue. Yep.
The issue with that is you're trying to compare medium roleplay, where we don't try to force everybody to be immersed in the lore and know everything by the back of their hand, with a heavy roleplay which expects that, both encourages and enforcing rules behind that.
Yeah, so
they did add they added a stipulation though of, in your case, you would probably prefer to do something more like more akin to talking to people who drag it down more so than forcing people into that. Basically, go after people who are actively harming that kind of roleplay environment rather than forcing people to take on things sort of like Bay does, where they more proactively enforce standards. Meanwhile, for us, our job in MRP is more of a reactive, hey, you're kind of being a prick, need to talk to you about this thing because you're actively pulling things down. We do a number of things like this already in terms of, I believe, preventing emotes and such. But what we could do is just try to work around what would be considered very, very low roleplay behavior and at least try to prevent that less so than enforcing full-on roleplay like a heavy RP server would.
Basically, if you have specific things that people are doing which you feel are very LRP, then bring them up to us specifically. It's almost impossible to make meaningful progress on a generalized MRP discussion because everyone has different things that they imply MRP to mean, and the less specific the discussion is, the less useful it is. The more we can talk about specific behaviors, the more likely we are to make progress.
Skyping me breathes.
Oh god. Also, Bay
Fox
is not a good
says-
example to use for things.
Never mind,
Bay
it's just a main
is
comment.
Bay is problematic for a number of reasons.
Bay is largely a milsim server right now.
Yeah.
I did try Bay once, and I couldn't figure out which fucking job was assistant because they had named it something completely different.
See,
So, shall we move on?
We've got one more forum question, and then I
We
get
have
to
another
move
page,
into all
refresh.
the DM questions. Oh, we have another?
yeah, refresh.
Oh, good God.
Stop
All
refreshing.
right, then. We've got any possibility on adding a second warden position. Being in charge of prisoners, permas, processing, evidence, armory, and executions is a lot of work for one person. And this problem becomes much worse when the brig is full and a Grey Tide virus is activated. Someone else to help the brig would really help in all the work one warden has to do. I mean, I'd be game for that if it was possible. Honestly, I don't know if there's the gear, but admittedly having two would be kind of nice.
I don't think it's a good idea because a lot of shifts, there just isn't enough demand for it. I also think that part of the problem with wardens appearing to be overworked is that wardens do not utilize the existing mechanics that they have. Like, for example, wardens have authority over sec officers who were in the brig. It is perfectly acceptable and encouraged for wardens to say things like, security officers, do not just bring people into processing and dump them there and leave them there, because one warden cannot handle every single prisoner who is brought into the brig, especially because it takes additional time for the warden to find out, what happened in their case and decide if they really should be searched or arrested or prisoned and for what and for how long and whatnot. Wardens don't make effective use of their authority to get security officers to help them, and that is the main source of wardens being overworked. Basically, stop treating warden like the guy who does everything in the brig, like processing and executions and maintaining the armory and defending it, and like reduce the scope of what wardens are expected to do, and wardens will be fine the way they are.
I'd be against it because it would mean you'd have two people with cav mag gloves, which is a trait.
I was saying have them fight over it. Here, you get one glove, I get the other. That way we get half the art.
Let's say, though, that we do make it so there's two wardens, two duplicated lockers, so they get the same gear. That means that one warden gets jumped, the other warden comes on and just gets an instant leg sweep. And then you're dealing with two people who have leg sweep.
My problem with having another warden, though, like, I know... Wait, never mind. I'm just saying, like, the traitor object where you have to steal Krav Maga gloves, that becomes vastly easier if there's just another pair sat idle in a locker not being used.
That's fair. If you want to move on from that, though, then let's see. We've got, for all the coders, do you have any suggestions on how a newbie to coding can get started in coding with the intention of eventually doing coding for the server? That is a lot of mentions of coding.
I actually do a thing where I sort of have a tutorial series for people doing their first PR. The very short version is, if you want to do your first PR, ask me and I will walk you through it. I will walk you through, installing GitHub and finding something small you can do as your first PR that's likely to get merged and doing it. It's too much of a process for me to explain the whole process now in voice because it would take ages. But basically, there are people, including me, who are willing to walk you through it if you ask. Allocate at least an hour for this process, not including the time it takes to clone the GitHub repository.
Could I weigh in a second?
Do it.
Good.
The way that I first started out was literally just finding something small instead of like a grammar issue or whatever to just find out how the code works, how things are structured or whatever, and then just change the string and then move on to something slightly bigger. Like my second PR was giving the CE a T-ray scanner because for some reason they didn't spawn with one, and I just found it as more of an exercise of first finding how the things are structured and using other examples to learn.
I just want to read Fox's reply to this. He says...
Die preemptively, get jaded, fill yourself with the darkness that is beyond, realise with absolute certainty that nothing exists outside of it, and it will consume your entire soul. For I have seen the end, and there is nothing there.
So, who has referenced the Half-Life VR fucking series there?
That'd be Fox.
That was Fox.
Oh, no.
I mean, it's true. He's seen the end
Was
of
that
Beyond.
intentional? Okay, that wasn't intentional. I don't know if he watches the same stupid nonsense I do. Oh,
He doesn't.
Disappoint me.
All I can really
Where's
say
your passport?
is just start with small PRs and don't try and overhaul the entire UI system as your first PR. Don't ask how I know this.
So I will say again, step one, identify something extremely small, like a one-word change that you can do as your first PR. Your first PR that I walk people through is literally just a tutorial on how to do a PR at all, how to work with Git, how to clone a repository, how to make a branch, how to submit it to GitHub, how to do a changelog, all the paperwork stuff. There's no actual coding lesson in your first PR. Your second PR is when I'm like, okay, now you know how to submit a PR at all. Now you can change something which actually involves the code in some way, like, I don't know, add an item. But again, one step at a time. Whatever you're thinking of doing, make it half that size or less. Because a general rule of coding, anything that you plan to do always is twice as complicated and takes 4 times as much time as you think it's going to be.
Toodles has returned to us.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So wait, Are we starting to give people advice on how to do PRs?
No, we aren't.
code.
That was one question that was answered. We can
Oh.
move on.
Yeah. The
Okay.
final question of the day,
Fox has said
at least
something.
from forums.
Could I quickly weigh in
Wait,
with
Fox
what
said
Fox has
something?
got to say?
Yeah, he
More
said something.
seriously,
All right.
I got my start looking at reagents and just figuring out what they did. Asked about things I didn't understand and what they meant and how it related to larger coding languages I built upon. Then spend a lot of time looking at parts of the code for what it did but didn't really change anything. Or if I did, just small little value changes. But I kept what I looked for in the future, then slowly built out from there.
Huh.
Now he sees the void.
All right.
Beyond code
So-
ruins your soul.
The final forum question is the ending joke question before Spark steals it from Qwertytoforty. When will Vox be able to love? I've never seen any PR open for it, and it's an issue that needs fixing.
As a Vox player, never.
Never.
Fucking never.
I'll say this: my Vox hates all other Voxes.
That's interesting. So
no.
I'm a little bit out of the loop. I never understood this joke, but where is it coming from? Can somebody be
What,
the
Fox
ass
can't
and
love?
explain to me?
It
It's
was code
the
words
fact,
at one point.
yeah, it was fact that it was found in the code that Vox could not love, and so that's where it came from.
Okay.
I think it was either me or Flash that said it first.
Oh
and
God, who is eating a
Sky
fucking
Pig,
microphone?
what the
Am I
fuck is
eating
your
this?
mic?
Your
Have you
microphone.
Have you dug out the 2006 Xbox Live headset?
Sky Pig, it sounds like you took Sparks' robotic voice changer and like
How about
upped
now?
it by 20.
Oh, hey,
No, that's still.
No.
Also, no, Spark, don't. Also, yes, you can have a potato chip. Also, how you get free money in real life is answer all those ads you see on the internet.
Bitcoin.
Guys,
Oh God.
Can we get ERP tokens? Absolutely, with a ban. Let's see. What's a current state of station merge with a reworked engineering department? We went over that in the thing beforehand with a
Fox
test
is
merge.
on it.
Currently being test merged, but was being test merged, waiting on Fox's SMPR. Shattered was just inviting me to a text RP thing that's let's see. Someone mentioned slow mode. Too late for that. I don't care.
So
Say something about maybe having a lead for spriting, which we can report to as a list of stuff needing reworked, as well as maybe a sprite palette. Also, might be an idea that besides the palette to just have a few guidelines for spriting, like how many shades, etc. That's a real question, so I'll open that up to talking. I think it would be kind of cool to have kind of a spriting team if people were interested. But right now, all we have is a chat.
can I
I mean,
throw something in?
Go ahead.
I have to say I really, really enjoy the idea of doing a PR workshop. So I will try to see if I have enough time to set it up myself. But teaching people how to do their first PR and actually like doing quote unquote the first PR. I mean, sure we can just decline it, but giving people like a hello world, so to
We
say.
cannot just decline it, for the record.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Oh,
say decline it.
oh,
If
okay,
it's first PR, point out what's wrong with it.
No, I mean like guiding people through a process, saying like, okay, now we change this reagent, for example, so it's 5 times stronger, just as an example. Now we compile it.
No,
Now we
that's-
check if it
no.
works.
No. So I'm just going to tell you straight up. When I get people to do their first PR, I generally get them to do a fix which is trivial but useful, like fixing a spelling error or something. The reason for this is there are plenty of those things that are we have 500 or something issues in the issue backlog. I mean, there's plenty of things like that. It's a better experience for the person doing their first PR to actually get it merged and have that satisfaction. It encourages them to do more PRs in future. And also
738 issues.
That's a good idea, actually.
It teaches people how to find good PRs to create, which is a very valuable part of the tutorial process.
But you get my idea of making it like a workshop, right? Like guiding people.
A workshop is fine, but a workshop is fine. Hand holding is even good. But we need to.
Hand holding is good. Kiat 2020.
Oh God. A workshop is fine. Hand-holding is great.
Fucking
The goal should
degenerate.
be the goal should be not just teaching people, but teaching people how to contribute usefully. And if not teaching people how to create things that'll be rejected.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I'm still disappointed with that PR that removed the best spelling error I ever saw in the video game.
Oh god, we're not going to go there.
Is it the sugar thing?
Is
No,
it the
it's
one
the,
Brian did?
No.
It's the mime.
Oh,
The
we don't need to go into it.
Do it.
the- I can't say it without laughing.
encourage
I loved running around hitting people with my nuncucks.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Good God, that's amazing. Also, Frailty has asked for a mentor back. I'll send that over in the community manager chat. And I think
Yeah.
I'd be
Who
good for that.
wants
Frailty.
who wants a mentor
Frailty.
back?
Frailty.
Can you highlight them?
He is primal in Discord.
Can you highlight them? Just in chat so everyone knows.
That is a nerd.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh yeah, sure. All right. All right. Remlin Man
somebody
says,
somebody's made a proposal to me that I feel is worth mentioning to everybody.
Kit, do you
Go
want to
ahead.
marry me?
Sorry?
You're getting married yet?
You're
Because of the proposal.
Congratulations.
No, the proposal is encourage head rolls through in-game text to be more welcoming to roleplay. This is largely not a function of how welcoming they are to roleplay. This is largely a function of how busy head jobs players can be dealing with all the things in their department. I say this as somebody who basically exclusively plays heads. If you're playing a head roll well, you are often so busy that you do not have time to go into a 10-minute RP session with somebody simply because, PsyChem is blowing up, the virologist is releasing the Spanish flu, the cargo techs have formed a union, and the security officers are running around on code green with riot shotguns issued by the warden because he thought it would be funny. So
Perfect.
I will say I'm open to changes that make heads that give heads more guidance as to how to be nice to new players and whatever. But you're always going to be butting up against the fact that they have responsibilities and time pressure. And as captain, I get a lot of flack for just not role playing with people in the hallways, not replying to people. But conversely, what people have to understand is that if you're captain, everyone wants your attention, and it's usually because the HOS brigged them for 5 minutes over something, and you just don't have time to get into that. If it's really important, they should PDA you, but usually people kind of jump to you as a shortcut, so they don't have to go to the IAA or the HOS or any of the people they should have gone to. So it's a double-edged sword. If you want heads to roleplay more, you also have to, as a player base, be respectful of the fact that they are busy and use the escalation procedure correctly.
I kind of hate, just to add on to that question, I kind of hate how people usually treat head roles, such as, CMO or captain. They always run to them whenever they need something, be it signature or something unlocked or created. But the moment that head roll tries to do their job proper, assert their authority, manage their department, they're treated like they're public enemy number one by everyone in their own department.
I'm going to give a good example of this. So yesterday there was a round with a CMO, Kiri, I think it was. Basically, there's sort of an internal short list of people who are really good at head rolls. Of all the people I've seen play CMO, Nokko is probably the best, but Siri was definitely in the top 3. They did things like round start, they used a megaphone into their headset to announce, look, if you're new to medical, tell me now and I will help you, and I will help you get good at medical, and it's not a problem. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't tell me and you don't accept any help, I will fire you because you're a liability. And that is exactly the sort of thing that heads should be doing most shifts, especially in medbay. That is perfect kind of behavior from a head. It is, I will help you if you need it. I encourage you to ask for help. I will help you learn the game and whatnot. But if you don't know what you're doing and you don't accept any help and you start killing patients, you will be fired. That is perfect. But the problem is that after the CMO did this, half of medical started bitching at them for shouting too loudly over comms. They're the head. They're meant to give department commands. That's what they're for.
That's
If
why
you treat heads like this, you make life more difficult for everybody.
That's what I'm pointing about is the fact that this is why
an example.
This is why most people do not like playing head roles, because they want to play that head role as it's intended, such as the head of security doing his job, managing security officers, giving punishment when needed, even in his own department. But the moment they lift their finger, say a word or anything against a member of their department that they run against, they suddenly have issues, such as security officers refusing to listen to the head of security, refusing to enforce space law, literally having like riots or strikes because, oh, the head of security told me I can't do this, so I'm just going to quit security entirely.
Yeah. So there are a lot of things, don't get me wrong, being super commanding does not necessarily make you a good head. I have seen so many times now where HOSs have this mandatory briefing that they expect this entirety of security to attend. That is playing an HOS badly. In general, if you're doing a briefing as HOS, you're doing badly. I have had several episodes this week where I was playing a security officer, and the HOS gave me an order along with the rest of security to turn up to a briefing for something, which could have very easily be done over the radio. And the fact that we were all at the briefing and it was announced that we were all at the briefing meant that we couldn't respond to things like active murders on the rest of the station because we were ordered by the HOS to go to this briefing. Don't be a dick. Do not use your authority playing head of department to force everyone into your narrow definition of what is good at the expense of them even being able to do their jobs competently. That does happen. Do use your head of authority. Do use your authority to help new people learn how to do their jobs. Do use your authority to fire people who are basically a liability for your whole department. Like, as an HOS, do use your authority to fire security officers who insist on running around with their taser out in the open on green, despite being specifically told not to do this, because it is dangerous. Do use your authority as RD to fire people who blow large holes in your department. Do use your authority as CMO to fire surgeons who insist on trying to give people pizza hands.
Fuck's sake, I knew you were going to bring that up.
I would love that.
There is an art to playing a head well. Using your authority is necessary for this, but just be sure you're a net positive for your department. Swinging your bits around and trying to impress everyone with your authority is generally not going to go well.
Unga bunga, I am big head.
Also, Traveling Merchant would like to say, since a new look was mentioned, if it helps, my services are available and reasonably cheap. So a bit of a shill there, but at the same time, he is a very good guy, and if you need anything sprited, I'm sure that we could probably use some. What is it?
We'll pay. No, I'm leaving.
I'd totally be up for paying.
I would totally say that we should pay him in nanobucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can only spend them here, Traveling. Don't worry. Ken would also like to ask, can we get Goose as mid-round antag?
Can we get what, sorry?
A Goose.
Honk.
Refer to earlier thing about a mid-round antag? I mean, that actually might be an idea, Toodles. Goose is
Steal
mid-round
everything.
antag.
I mean, I actually like the idea.
Yeah. Because that would actually be a fitting thing.
Yeah, crap.
Also,
yeah, I will do it. Fuck it.
No, I'm not asking you to do it. I'm just saying it's...
I want to do it, though.
Spark would like to ask, where the fuck is my muffin? Do I have a cow tipper? Where is a fish? Is there a donut in my camel? Why is there a donut in my camel? My camel has exploded. What do I do? Please send help. My camel is dead. This is your fault. You didn't answer it. Why didn't you answer it? Bob the camel is dead. You've killed Bob. I demand insurance. Bobsurance. Frank the banana spider is now very unhappy. Flub. Anyways.
So,
when are we when are we going to have a yes?
Butterscotch pudding is the answer to all of that.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't get his potato chip either.
Also,
I have a question.
when are we going to have a lore team? Asks somebody else very seriously, and I think we mentioned this before.
Yep.
We did.
Of basically refer to the answer of we're going to have a lore team if requested by enough people in a survey. Chances are very, very rare, though, and we'd have to go through a number of staff hula hoops to go and see what that would happen.
Wasn't it
needs to be
Nokko
the
who
right
said that?
person? No, here's the
I
thing.
have no idea.
I think we can even bring Nokko to like the idea, but it needs to be the right people, because once again, gameplay comes first, and technically the only thing that the lore team is kind of doing is being told what to do, and that's not really fun. And if you work on like a long text for a character only to have it changed by a PR that's being merged that says now this character has to breathe plasma, then you're like, oh fuck. So it needs to be the right kind of person that doesn't get too attached.
That's fair. Also, I would say Affected also wants to ask, when is he becoming server? Oh, wait, no, I need to do a cheesy accent. I can't really do a cheesy accent.
Send me
I
a
could
question.
do one.
Well, it's just not good enough.
It's just when is Affected becoming server host?
When is Affected becoming server host?
Oh God, I hate
my
that.
God.
I hate you. Get out.
By the way,
Leave.
guys,
Ignore the
this is why we
question,
don't
fucking
normally-
Manspark.
Ignore the question.
Ignore the
Leave
question, get him
anyway.
out of here.
This is
This
Guys,
is
where we
mute-
don't give Spark speaking.
Mute
privileges.
him now.
one thing. We are now 3 hours in. It's 1
Yes.
in the morning. Let's.
Yes.
Can we wrap
Toodles
this
is
up?
tired.
Oh, so
I gift
guys,
the 3-hour changeover.
I have a gift for you as well.
Mhm.
The next round will be a test merge round of mech customization PR.
Yes.
So if you want to play
Hell
with that,
yes.
next round is your opportunity. This will be stated on the server as well. If you
Yes.
have the test
Yes.
merge round alert thing, it's recompiling this very second, and it should be up within about a minute.
Okay,
fuck
whoever is robotics, I expect to see 50 Durans on the server.
Also,
Right.
if you do not have the role that gives you notifications of test merges, you can get that role in the role sign-up channel.
Is it
if
reaction
you
rolls
do-
balked?
It is balked in the sense that if you change your roles, it may not give you the correct ones. However, A, that may be fixed, and B, that doesn't stop you getting the things if you already have them. And even if it doesn't work today, it should work within a week. So for all of those reasons, I still encourage you to check it out. You do need a linked account of the forum in-game to use it, but you should have one of those anyway. So yeah.
Also, do note, Traveling said the message that they sent me was mostly related to full sprite sets and conformity for that unified look topic, which was the topic of discussion at the time he sent me that. Somebody asks as well, they are mute and they must... Oh, God. And also, can I trade 20 TC for Cindy Ripley and paint it yellow? I would.
Yeah, do it.
Okay, well, we need 50 pink Durans.
Yes. Yellow piss phaser.
Oh God, yeah. Oh my God. I'm
Oh
trying
my
to regret
goodness.
this.
To refer to the Goose antagonist specifically, Drak did a mid-round antag with me as a horrible goose that honked and knocked people down and could vent crawl. The purpose we set out was specifically to be a piece of shit without jeopardizing anything, and it went rather well. A head of personnel that treasured their stamp was not particularly happy when the goose swallowed it, and the captain became increasingly obsessed with killing the goose after it ate their mug. The consumption of small, unimportant trinkets and honking to knock people over before vent crawling led to the goose becoming rather hunted, but not to the degree that people were extremely angry. The goose was captured and slaughtered at the bridge, and the people screamed in anger when he found that the items were no longer inside the goose. I'm no authority on anything, but while it was funny, it was definitely something that people would not want to experience very often.
Yeah, I'd agree with that because if you do it constantly, it becomes stale.
I really want piss face on to be a thing now.
It is a thing.
You know, there's
Question?
another potential for the Goose, which is to make it a hostile mob that can be spawned in Xenobio. Don't give it like hugely special AI. Just make it an attack by honking you, which does very little damage. But it's just, you know, and it's not a difficult mob to kill, but it's just a funny thing that it can attack you and try to honk you to death.
Can I throw something in?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Are we finished now?
Those are all my DM'd questions.
Awesome.
Anyone else?
I guess Affected can, unless there are no more questions.
It's occurred to me that I now have to add, like, what's called substance to 3 hours of audio. Like,
enjoy.
For questions.
That's
So,
shit
Affected
homework.
Arc, I'm trying to make this easier for you by posting my things, including questions asked during the meeting, to the actual thread. So there's sort of a condensed notes version of the thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
I just
that's
plan to
nice.
like screenshot
So
each
that way,
question
you know, responses
and
are
then
not
put it
lost.
up in the thing. Just don't expect the meeting thing to
otherwise,
be done by.
Can I
Don't
close
expect it to be done by tomorrow.
No.
Expect longer.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for coming.